Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with Sportsbet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's foolproof.
We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE and welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what Captain Janeway did to Tuvix. Yeah, straight up murdered him. I don't know if you guys have watched all of Voyager back after originally watching it, but Janeway's a fucking savage, man. Like, she wipes out entire species. Anyway, hello, welcome back to the channel. I hope you have recovered from last night. I haven't. My brain is still very sore. Very, very sore. Yes, because gravity is the cause of gravity is the cause of gravity is the cause of gravity, according to Flatzoid. Anyway, tonight we are talking to someone that you may have seen on my good buddy MC Toon's channel. His name is Al Truther. Hello, Al. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you, Craig. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on.
I'm ecstatic that you are here. I love the globe next to you. Just keep focusing on that because that is reality, honestly.
Oh, I hate it, so we're disagreeing already.
I mean, you don't have to love reality, but, unfortunately, it's there whether you like it or not. Anyway, why don't you just take a minute to introduce yourself to people, let them know why you're a flat earther, and then we can get into talking about some evidence.
Okay. Right, my name is Alex Ogilvie, which is a rare Scottish name. I've called myself Al Truther just for the last 3 years. I got fed up of being called a conspiracy theorist and a Flerf, and I just thought I'd give my page a bit of character. This is only my third debate. I'm going up against Craig here, who's had 800, he says. Similar kind of thing with Toon. So it's a bit daunting. I'm throwing myself in at the deep end. I don't consider myself a terrific debater. I'm trying to learn the ropes to see where I get with it, to see if I can continue doing it. I've been a flat earther for about 7 years. I haven't got a channel. I've not been interested in creating a channel. I just do my stuff on Facebook. So I haven't got any fans to impress. I haven't got any patrons to keep happy. I come here, I leave my ego at the door. I think that's the wisest thing to do. I want a good discussion. People often say, why is flat earth important? Well, I'm just going to give a few words on that. People often say, what difference does it make? I still have to go to work in the morning. You can kind of see where they're coming from. A lot of truthers say, this is a waste of time. There's too many things in the world that need fixing before we worry about, the shape of the earth. I kind of agree to a point, but I don't think it's something we should just let go and go, oh, yeah, forget about it then. We need to keep the wheels rolling on it because we think we're right, obviously. Why is it important? Well, it's the difference between creation being correct and the Big Bang being correct. It validates creation. If we're at the center of the universe on a fixed plane, it validates creation. It trashes the Big Bang. It trashes monkey men evolution. It trashes dinosaurs, space travel, meteors. It brings down institutions like education, science, government, media that are all lying to us if what we're saying is correct. And of course, we all think we are correct. We're told we're a speck of dust in the middle of a vast universe. What I think they are doing is making us and Earth completely insignificant in the grand scheme of things, when actually the reality is we are the center of everything. So the opposite is true. The globe, if it's a lie, and we think it is, it will have weaknesses, and then weaknesses are protected. The most important weakness is curvature. We are discussing the shape of the Earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the so-called planets, and lots of other things, gravity, the Coriolis effect, all that stuff is interesting. But when you're talking about the shape of the Earth, curvature is where the truth is at. It's where it should be. It's where the focus should be. And it's where you see a lot of fudging, to be honest, with long-distance photography, all these things that can be argued with refraction and stuff. And it just goes round and round in circles. One of the biggest red flags is NASA. It doesn't prove the shape of the Earth. It should be able to. We should, and we would love to be able to just trust NASA and go, well, yeah, they're showing us a globe. It's a globe, but we can't. We can't trust NASA. We've been investigating them for years, and it just doesn't add up. What they're showing us isn't realistic. It's a huge red flag. NASA's got more red flags than Man United, Liverpool at Wembley. All right, so that's also something we need to concentrate on. Although it doesn't prove anything, if they're lying about everything, I mean, what are we left to think if NASA are lying about everything they're doing, and all these photographs and images and videos of globe Earth are not real? They're images, fisheye lens, manipulation, all that sort of stuff. So your science degrees are to be respected. I think if I come on and start being ignorant about that, then I'm just going to look a right twat. They are to be respected. You put a lot of hard work into them. Your career is to be respected as well. My question really is, have you been taught lies? Now, I don't think that is disrespectful to ask that question. But to just trash someone's degrees and all that sort of stuff, your hard work should be respected as anybody else who's done a degree. So it's not something I like to hear from flat earthers, but I hear a lot of things from flat earthers that I don't like to hear. I mean, you just told me that you've had how many death threats. That's just disgusting. It shouldn't be happening either way. So my career, I've been a landscape gardener and garden designer for 25 years. That's actually come to an end this year. I got banned from driving and that messed that up. I'm just about to get back on the road again, so I don't know what I'm going to do anymore. My back's killing. Been doing it for 25 years. But I've got a good grasp of level and water and datums, but no scientific background. I'm not academic. I'm more of a creative person, to be honest. Academia, the science side of it, as you will have seen on Toon, is not my strength. That doesn't mean I can't come on and talk about it. That doesn't mean I can't be a flat earther. Most people who believe in the globe don't know the science of the globe, do they? So obviously when you're challenging something, you need to know a bit more. But there are plenty of other flat earthers that are better at that than me. And I tried to learn from them. I tried to not be too biased. I tried to listen to the other side as well. I tried to listen to Toon as well about what he's saying. But basically, I was a college dropout. That'll make you laugh. But no, it was horticultural college, and I used to wag the science lessons. That'll make you laugh too. But it was plant science. It's not the sort of science that we're talking here. It was plant science, which I used to find a bit heavy and a bit boring. I used to go and play football while I was supposed to be in science lessons. I got caught doing that, and my tutor at the end of year one says, "Look, mate, you're more interested in girls and football than getting a diploma here." So I was a college dropout. I only did the first year of a national diploma. a lovely college, Warwickshire College. I think you've got one near Bristol called Pershaw. It's an agricultural, horticultural college, and they do the equine studies and farriery and animal care and all that sort of stuff. But that's my background. I think that's just about it.
Okay, thank you. So,
Okay.
so about 7 years you said you've been a flat earther, yeah?
Yeah.
7 years, goodness. All right, so let's just start with evidence that you've got or points you want to talk about. Surely after 7 years you must have some fantastic evidence of the flat earth that we can discuss.
Well, you use the word evidence a lot.
Yeah.
And I always think, why aren't they saying proof? Because evidence, of course, is not proof. You get evidence in a court case, and it's not proof. Evidence can build to find proof. So, I mean, evidence is evidence.
It's because I like to
Proof
use scientific nomenclature. So in science, there's no such thing as proof of anything. Proof exists in mathematics or you know, the data. When you do science, nothing in science is to do with proving anything. You give evidence for a position because we know in science that we might be wrong and a better explanation might come along in the future. So we never use the word proof when we're talking scientifically, and I guess that's just transferred over to the way I talk. So I like to talk about, you know, the evidence that for either side and see if that evidence holds up to scrutiny.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah. Well, the biggest evidence for me still is anything to do with curvature and water. So I'll start with water, and I'll start with canals. Science likes to talk about predictions a lot, and now this canal I'm going to talk about, I spoke about it on Toon. I'm going to speak about it again. It is a section of canal which is 40 miles long between Preston and Kendal, up in the northwest of the UK. It's the longest stretch in the UK, but has no locks. Most canals have locks every few miles, maybe, or and you could actually use that as an excuse to get round the globe. You get round the globe with flat water with locks, but this particular stretch is 40 miles with no locks. Now, my prediction is that from Preston or Kendal, wherever you start, going whichever direction, there is no change in elevation whatsoever from start to finish. The water is completely flat, horizontal, and level.
Why would there be a change in elevation, though? Elevation isn't, you know, there on a globe, there will still be zero change in elevation above the surface of the water. Elevation means distance above the surface. So the elevation on a globe could be 1 meter at several points, and that's still just 1 meter that's following the curve of the Earth. So no, there wouldn't be a change in elevation because elevation is distance above the surface. And if the surface is curved, then there wouldn't be an elevation change.
Okay, so you'd be going downhill effectively then?
No, because downhill is just towards the center of the Earth from a single point. Down just means towards the center, not around the curve. Gravity pulls us towards the middle of the Earth. So when you're going downhill, you are being pulled towards the middle of the Earth. That's why if you've got a car and you put it on a hill and you take off your handbrake, it's not just going to stick there, it's going to go down the hill towards the center of the Earth because gravity is pulling it down. So no, there's not going to be an elevation change because elevation just means distance above the surface.
So what would your explanation be for this canal over 40 miles? What is it doing in your opinion?
Well, it would be following the curvature of the Earth because water curves with the arc of the Earth.
Yeah, so of course that's what I thought you'd say. It's curved over 40 miles. It's curved. So
yeah. So let's say a 0.62 of a degree, basically over 40 miles. Yeah. So there would be a curvature of about 0.6 of a degree over that amount of distance. Yeah.
And what sort of feet? What sort of feet are you talking? I mean, we could do this on the calculator, obviously.
Well, feet is irrelevant. Feet isn't curvature. The curvature is measured in degrees because when you're talking about curve, that's how you would describe it. So the curvature would be 0.6 of a degree, and if you were to use 8 inches per mile squared from because at the 8 inches per mile squared only works from exactly at sea level. That means obviously at sea level there'd be a certain amount of drop, whatever that is, but from the horizontal of that position, but the water still follows the curve of the earth.
But you're claiming this canal was built curved.
No, it's built level.
But yeah, but level to the earth, but curved. You're saying that the banks of this canal are curved. I'm saying absolutely not. The banks of this canal were built completely horizontal and flat.
And do you have any evidence of that?
I can't find any. No.
Right. So you're just saying that's what you think, then?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right. Well,
you're saying you're just saying what you think as well. You're saying.
Well, no, because I've got actual evidence that water curves. Even in engineering sense, that we've got exact evidence that water curves. If you want to talk about how we know that water curves, it's very simple. You use tow tank facilities, massive water basins that you have ships and stuff in to do hydrodynamic testing. Okay, they're very long, and the ships have to lie on the surface, and they test how the waves and stuff act on them. The ships are brought in on a rail, and this rail has to be a certain distance above the water for the entire length. Let's say 6 inches above the surface of the water, right? So right at the start, the rail is 6 inches above the water. Right at the end, the rail is 6 inches above the water. At every point along that rail, it is exactly 6 inches above the water. However, if you look at the engineering specifications for when the tow tank facilities were designed, you find out those rails are curved, even though they have 0 elevation change compared to the water. And there is thousands of these tow tank facilities all around the world.
So if we practically built a canal, right?
Yeah.
100 miles long. 100 miles long, all right. If you live on a globe, you'd need to put stilts on it to get it up in the air. But if hypothetically we built a canal 100 miles long, completely flat, so we know it's flat, and then you filled it with water at increments along the 100 miles, so it fills with water evenly, what would that water do?
Well, if it was completely flat and not curved, then that water would be towards one side. It would be if you built it completely flat, from your perspective, it would actually be rising up against the surface of the earth. So at the end of that, the gravity wouldn't have the water lying level to the canal anymore, because it's not in alignment with the local gravitational vector pulling down. It would just go up. So that's why we don't build things like that. We just build things level, because level follows the curve of the earth. And if you want to talk about canals, we can always talk about the Bedford level. A drainage canal in Bedford that is extremely long and flat. Yeah. And originally, a flat earther a couple of 100 years ago tried to use that as evidence of the earth being flat. But then a guy called Wallace came along and did the experiment again, taking refraction into account, so just by moving a little higher above the surface of the earth, where the refraction wouldn't be so bad, and found out that the curvature in that canal matches the predictions of the curve of the earth. So we have measurements of the curve of the earth. We have measurements that water curves. In engineering, it has to for these tow tank facilities to work. So to just say that there is no curve is a bit silly when we have all the measurements of there being curve.
What are these tow tanks for? What are they? I don't get what
they're for. Hydrodynamic testing facilities for testing how ships act in certain conditions. So they bring them in these massive water basins, and they'll have wave generators and stuff to see how the ships react in certain conditions. And for registering of all the data, it's brought in on a rail and held in position, and that rail is a certain distance above the water. And the whole way along the water, let's say it's 6 inches, but the rail is actually curved when you look at the engineering specifications, which means that the water is also curved. And if water's curved, then, you know.
So, I mean, yeah, I've heard all about the Bedford levels. It was done in the 1800s. It was done in the early 1900s. I had the idea of going back and doing the Bedford level Mark III. But all it would get is argued. You would just, I could come back, it could be completely flat, and I would just get argued. You would get refraction brought into it. You would get people.
Well, it depends if you did it
games.
properly. If you went and did the Bedford level, and at several points along the Bedford level took barometric pressure readings and temperature readings at certain elevations, then did your observation, right? What we could do then is look at the data you've gathered and do the calculations as to what we would expect refraction to do, and see if it matches what you have just seen with the data that you've gathered. But the problem is, whenever flat earthers do any of these experiments, they never get all the data so that we can actually say, well, yeah, that matches the predictions of refraction. They just go, haha, we see too far, without any data for us to scrutinize.
Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of that, yeah. But Jeranism is a perfect example in the Netflix documentary, is it not? Did they take refraction into
that Netflix documentary was a bit shitty to Jeranism, if we're honest, but yeah.
Similar situation, really, isn't it? I've thought about it. I don't live that far from. I only live an hour away from Bedford, and it would be kind of nostalgic as well to go back to that exact site. There's other places you could do it, I'm sure. We now have better equipment than they had. They had telescopes. We've now got the cameras, so you'd think it would be easier to achieve.
Yeah.
But it's going to take some research. I want to do it. I want to do something rather than just sit here, like you say, with making statements. I want to go out there and prove it. I wanted to find a way. I mentioned it on Toon of going to this canal up in Preston and traversing the 40 miles and somehow proving that it's completely level, that it's not curving. But I need to find a way. Probably with some help. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it on my own. Of finding a foolproof way of doing that, and I come up with this idea specifically when I went on Toon, because I thought I'm not going to be able to beat this guy in a science debate. That's clear. I've watched too many of his episodes before. If Jeranism can't go on there and make an impact, then what chance have I got? Jeranism is more or less his career now. This is just a hobby of mine. That I'm just a general truther. I'm not even an out-and-out flat earther. I'm a general truther. I cover loads and loads of subjects. But I wanted to come up with a foolproof way, and that's why I come up with this idea of somehow getting a boat and proving that this boat is not going over a curve. I wanted a foolproof way where refraction can't be brought into it, where people can't start arguing about temperature and all that stuff. But I need to find a way of doing it that's not going to get argued and just refuted. Otherwise, it's just a waste of my time and money.
Well, I mean, you always have to take refraction into account because there's an atmosphere and therefore there's refraction. So the only way to remove refraction is to remove the atmosphere. And I'd rather you didn't remove Earth's atmosphere if it's all the same to you.
Yeah, but that refraction is talking about long distance sightings.
Not necessarily. Refraction happens all of the time, everywhere. Even right in front of your eyes, refraction is happening because there's a medium of varying density in front of you.
There must be a way of taking refraction out of the equation.
No,
to traverse
the only way to take refraction out of the equation is to remove the thing that causes refraction, and that's a medium that the light's traveling through. So you'd have to do whatever you want to do in some kind of vacuum.
But we're not talking about a sight test here. We're talking about traversing a canal and finding that you're not deviating in your position. You're going
what would you
flat
deviate?
level.
I mean, you would stay level. What would you expect to see as a deviation? A deviation from what?
From your starting position.
Okay.
You're either going over a curve or you're going flat. You must be able to prove that you're travelling flat and not going over a curve like that without refraction. But I'm going to a Flat Earth meeting tomorrow, my first ever in rugby, and I'm going to put it to them and see what they say. See if they've got any ideas. I don't expect you to bloody help me too much. I'm expecting you to find ways of thinking, oh no, that won't work. So I'll do my research.
I'm just wondering
ways.
how you would register a deviation from your starting point.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah.
But when you say there's no curvature, do you just ignore all the measurements, or?
Well, whose measurements? They're not my measurements.
It doesn't matter. Science doesn't require everybody to do everything all the time. What about the measurements that are used for engineering? Have you ever travelled the London Underground?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that needed measurements of Earth's curve. They specifically took Earth's curvature into account when making the London Underground. In fact, they had to design an entire new mapping system because the one that was there wasn't accurate enough, and they had to make it a lot more accurate to the globe rather than the flat distortion that they would use in general maps. So, they literally used the curvature of the Earth to design the London Underground. They used measurements for that. I mean, that's just hearsay, though. I mean, well, no, we've got the engineering specifications that show it.
That's not reality, though. That's some.
What do you mean?
Measurements.
It's engineering. It's physically in reality, something that they physically did. They built intersecting tunnels all underground London using the Earth's curvature as a guide. That's not fantasy or anything. That is reality.
There's not exactly much curvature over London, though, is there?
Enough to make the intersecting tunnels. When they built the Victoria Line passes literally through, under and above other lines. And if they hadn't taken the curvature of the Earth into account, they would have literally, built into the line rather than going above it. They had to measure the curvature of the Earth over those short distances and use that when they were constructing the tunnels.
Yeah, but what I'm saying when it's not reality is the words on the paper are not reality. That could be lies.
But they represent reality. Those papers were what people used to build those tunnels.
Well,
so there definitely is measurements of curvature. The question is, do you just want to ignore them? You're always welcome to learn surveying methods and try and back up the measurements. But there's people that have spent their entire life learning to be surveyors, geodesic surveyors, and measure the curvature of the Earth. Toon's got a website, you know that, and on his website, if you go to mctoon.net/r, there is a massive, massive list of measurements of the curvature of the Earth, including the transcontinental triangulation of the American arc of the parallel, which measured the curvature of the Earth over the entire continental United States.
Do you know what? I think this would be the ideal point to move on to my next point, which is railways, because quite disappointingly, I thought I was going to be able to bring a railway engineer onto this show tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't make it because he doesn't know when he's going to get work. He gets called out all the time. And he said, I'll definitely come on if I'm not working, but I didn't hear from him today. So I was a little bit disappointed, not in him, he had to work, but I wanted to be able to bring a railway engineer on to tell you this. I'll give you the quote that he sent me or wrote on one of my posts the other day. So while we're talking about engineering, building stuff and proof and documents and stuff like that, this is a railway engineer of 27 years. He designs and helps build the overhead power lines on railways, which of course would be intrinsically linked to the railways themselves. So his statement is, and it's the second statement is made, I made another one on Toon, but this is a little bit different. He said, an account for topography is included in design and construction of the railway infrastructure's geometry. No curvature of the Earth or its radius is taken into account in any formula, in any standard, the end. That is his statement. How would you tell a railway engineer, we've just been talking about railways and the tubes, how would you tell this railway engineer that he's talking shit when he's been doing it for 27 years?
I wouldn't. There's no reason to take the curvature of the Earth into account when you're building railways because the topography of the Earth is much more important. Going up a hill will outweigh any curvature of the Earth. And although railways are mainly designed to, be as level as possible, there are times when railways go up hills and down hills and, things like that. So that is more important than the curvature of the Earth. Railways are actually designed to bend and warp depending on temperature and the trains passing over them. So they would naturally bend when the ground underneath them flexes slightly. But on a local level, there's absolutely zero reason why just a normal railway would need to take the curvature of the Earth into account. But like I said, the London Underground, during its construction, absolutely did. They had to.
That doesn't make sense.
Why does it not make sense?
Because you can talk about railways like across Australia, and you say you don't have to take the curvature of the Earth into account over that sort of distance. No way. And you're saying in London, just over London, that sort of distance they did. That don't make sense at all.
Yeah, because they had to dig tunnels underground. When you put railways above ground, you just put them relative to the topography of the land, right? So there's a mountain, you'll try and dig through that mountain. If there's a little hill, you'll have the train go up that little hill, right? And that kind of disregards any curvature of the Earth because the topography is more important. Regardless of the shape of the Earth, there is hills and mountains. And the train would have to be following those more, each section of train track is so small that it's just local to the Earth. But to design underground railways, underground tunnels, they had to take the curvature of the Earth into account. They had to use specific spherical formulas to make sure that the tunnels didn't intersect and, dig one tunnel into the other. They physically had to take the curve of the Earth into account when designing the London Underground because it's so intricate. One large railway going from one side of the country to the other, it's just going to be designed relative to the local topography.
What you get things like the Humber Bridge, right, where they claim the curvature of the Earth was taken into account.
Which one's the Humber Bridge?
Sorry?
Which one's the Humber Bridge?
Yeah, it's about 1.2 miles long.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
So there's lots of bridges that take the curvature of the Earth into account.
Why? Why would they? You don't need to for railways, but you do for a bridge over a mile.
Yeah, because of the way the bridges aren't railways; they're different things, right? So bridges that big are normally suspension bridges, right? And suspension bridges are designed with massive towers that have to be completely vertical, 100% plumb. And let's take the Venice Narrows Bridge in New York. And again, I apologize for New Yorkers for the pronunciation. Right, it's got two towers that hold up this suspension bridge with obviously the suspension wiring in between it. These two towers are exactly plumb, straight, 100%. However, the tops are 1 5/8 inches further apart than the bottoms because of the curvature of the Earth. When designing that bridge, they had to take the curvature of the Earth into account because those towers deviated slightly.
But it's only 8 inches. You're only talking 8 inches over a mile.
And that kind of deviation would be very important when building a bridge that carries millions of people.
Well,
but again, a bridge is something that's designed to be suspended above water or something. A railway is something that is just put on the ground. And they will design a railway relative to the local topography. And that's it. If there's hills and mountains, then they will probably have the train go up and down a little bit. If it's a relatively, flat piece of land, then it will just be level. But it's more to do with the topography than the curvature of the Earth.
I mean, I've heard steam quotes from people who built steam engines that said they were built to go on completely flat tracks, no deviation whatsoever.
There was definitely hills.
They don't go up and down hills, these steam engines.
Yeah, there was definitely hills. Trains went up hills all the time.
I've never seen it. I've only ever seen completely flat
So
railways.
you think no train has ever gone up or down a slight incline?
No, I'm not saying that ever. But I mean, you talk about the stations as well. That, you know, from the distance from Liverpool to London, in the middle you'd have Birmingham. That would be about 3 miles higher than the other stations. That's an awful lot to make up. That would suggest that they needed to be building the railways to the curve of the earth if they're building those datums. And this guy,
datums are all relative to the curvature
account.
of the earth, aren't they? So every datum that we use is based on a geoid, on a spherical earth. Every single datum that people use for reference is based on a spherical earth. So anytime you talk about a datum, you're talking about a spherical earth.
Well, not in my industry, but we're talking small distances in my industry, landscape.
Well, yeah, any datum that you reference, that datum will be referencing a geoid. That's what datums are. They tend to reference geoids.
I don't know what that word is. Tell me what that word is. Geoid. I've never heard of it.
It just means the model underneath, and in this case, it's a sphere.
Right. Okay. Well, it would have been more interesting to have this guy on, because you would have thought in 27 years you would have thought he would have heard about curvature and railways.
Well, not unless he's needed to take it into account. Is he a railway engineer that designed underground tunnels that needed extreme precision?
No, he'd be able to talk to you about it better himself. That's why I really wanted him to come on. So it was a bit of a disappointment. But,
Yeah, I mean, but the fact is that
I'm just kind of
the fact that railways take into account curve from like hills and stuff. I mean, that's more important than the curve of the earth over the local distances. You know.
Right.
And I would suggest that you read some of the books by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the father of the modern railway system in the UK, and he talks about the curvature of the earth quite a lot in that.
And sorry, what's that book?
It's any book or book talking about Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
Okay.
He was like the father of the railway industry in the UK, and he talks about the curvature of the earth quite a lot. So yeah, the point of railways is that they're designed to match the local topography. But when you take things like the bridges into account and the London Undergrounds, then the curvature of the earth comes into the calculations for designing these things.
And aeroplanes is a similar argument, really, but it's just up in the air, and the excuse of gravity can be used to keep the aeroplane going round the ball.
Well, gravity isn't an excuse. Gravity is an empirical fact.
And that's factored into the aeroplanes when they're built, because when you look at the documents, it only ever says a flat, non-rotating Earth. In all these documents, aviation documents.
There's one document that says about it that I've seen, and it's talking about modelling. And for modelling, you simplify things. And because when an aircraft flies, it flies relative to its local position, you don't need to take curvature into account when you're modelling, right? Because all the aircraft does is react to forces that are acting on it. And when the aircraft's in the air, if you have all the forces balanced with gravity, thrust, drag, and everything, once all those forces are balanced, it will act as though it's flying over a flat, level plane, because it just stays level. Because that is what will happen. The pressure of the atmosphere naturally follows the curve of the Earth. And when the airplane's forces are all balanced, it stays in that pressure and naturally follows the curve of the Earth.
So, when an aeroplane is flying forwards, say the Earth is spinning this way.
Yeah.
The aeroplane is being carried backwards. By the
backwards relative to someone outside of Earth, maybe, but not backwards relative to someone on Earth.
But it would be flying that way forwards, and the Earth is taking it backwards simultaneously. I'm never in a million years going to accept that is happening.
Well, that's called personal incredulity, though.
where is the science on this? Where is the actual empirical science that the atmosphere is even being carried with the Earth perfectly in sync? Never mind carrying aeroplanes and helicopters with it.
Well, all the measurements of the atmosphere show that.
The what, sorry?
All the measurements of the atmosphere show that.
Show what?
That it rotates with the Earth. I mean, physics says that it should. Just, you know, if we just want to purely talk about reality and physics, physics says that the atmosphere should rotate with the Earth. When the Earth was formed, it was rotating. That means that the atmosphere was also rotating because it was part of the Earth. So the conservation of momentum, that there's no reason for it to ever stop rotating. Plus gravity keeps it bound to Earth. Friction means it will be dragged along with the Earth. There's, you know, physics alone says that the atmosphere should rotate with the Earth. But then every measurement we take of the atmosphere shows that to be the case, apart from the parts of the Earth's atmosphere that exhibit what is called superrotation, which is where energy from the sun is actually imparted onto the atmosphere and makes it rotate slightly faster than the rotation of the Earth.
What about if I spin this ball? All it's going to do is it's going to displace the air. It's going to do the opposite. It's not going to make air spin and stick to it.
That's because there's more air in the room, but there's no more air out in space. There's nothing to stop it. If you were to spin that globe right now, it would drag a little bit of air with it, but the rest of the air would be, you know, influenced by the air in your room. Out in space, there is no air. There's nothing there to stop the atmosphere rotating with the Earth.
Well, that was another point I made in one of my debates. If there's nothing to stop the Earth spinning, when the Earth tilts, what stops it from tilting and then tilts back to create the seasons? Doesn't make sense at all.
The Earth tilting doesn't create the seasons. That I think you're under a little bit of a miscomprehension there. So the Earth has a tilt, right? So this is the Earth, right? Ooh, I just pulled my headset off. 1 sec. Right, this is the Earth, and that's the axis of its tilt, right? Like that. And let's say this is the sun, okay? As the Earth orbits the sun, it maintains that orientation the whole way round. It doesn't change its tilt. Its tilt stays exactly the same. We think the reason the Earth's tilting is because of an impact back in Earth's history, which took it off of it, you know, being straight like that. So the Earth's axis is like that, and that never changes. But because the Earth's axis is like that, that means that the part of the Earth that is directly facing the sun changes as it goes around. Meaning that at one point in the year, you'll have more energy hitting a certain part, and at another point in the year, you have less energy hitting a certain part. The tilt of the Earth never changes.
That's not what another globe debater said to me.
I don't care what another globe debater said. That is correct.
Okay, well, you spoke to him earlier, Mark McFarlane.
I spoke to him earlier.
But, yeah, another problem I have...
Who did I speak to earlier?
Mark McFarlane. He said he spoke to you about my debate.
Did he?
Yeah, he said he spoke to you about my debate.
Possibly, I speak to a lot of people. But anyway, what I just described to you is the way it is. The tilt of the Earth stays as it is relative to the sun.
Another thing that don't make sense while we're on the subject is boiling hot here, freezing cold here, simultaneously, when the sun is 93 million miles away.
Yep, that's very simple. Very simple.
No sense.
Right, so let's say the light's coming in directly like this, okay? Right? So if you imagine the light as a circle like that, right? A beam of light coming out. For this bit of the Earth here, right? That light will hit directly, right? So you will have that circle covering one little area. So all the energy of that light is in one area because it's tilting towards the Earth. However, if the light is down here, you see how it doesn't touch it, right? Which means that that circle will get spread out over more of a distance. So the same amount of energy has to cover a larger area, because it's tilted away from the sun. And that's why there's a difference in heat, because in Antarctica, you have the same amount of energy covering a larger area, which means less energy per meter squared of the Earth. And that's the reason why we also have the seasons, is because at one point of the year, when it's tilting towards the sun, there's more energy hitting here than there is down here. So this bit will have winter and this bit will have summer. So you know, in Australia, it's winter, well, it's summer up here, because the light down here now has to go over a larger distance than just a tiny bit here. Energy per square meter is what determines how warm it's going to be. Guys in the chat, please don't just randomly time people out for no reason. I see Gleam in there. Unless Gleam is being abusive, please don't time him out just for being Gleam, because that's usually quite funny. Sorry, carry on.
So I've got a bit of an issue with this subject we were just talking about, how the aeroplanes and the helicopters are attached to the Earth's atmosphere. So when a sniper shoots a bullet, we're told that they have to make adjustments for the for the rotation of the Earth, suggesting
Correct.
that the bullet is not attached to the atmosphere. So how is there's a hole in the story here? Why is the bullet not attached to the atmosphere, but the helicopters and the planes are?
Well,
again,
the bullet,
makes no sense.
the bullet doesn't
Seems
use
like a
the
massive
atmosphere
hole.
to fly, right? The bullet is, it's ballistic. It's not powered, right? So once the bullet is fired, there's no more energy being imparted into it, okay? Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay? An airplane and a helicopter, they are constantly imparting energy to move, right?
Yeah.
So, because a helicopter and a plane or anything with an engine is constantly imparting energy, that energy is way more powerful than anything that the Coriolis could give, right? So the effects of the Coriolis on something that's powered are so small that it's negligible. However, it's something that isn't powered, something that doesn't have any energy added to it, like a bullet, is subject to the laws of the conservation of momentum, right? Now, this is very simple, right? As the Earth spins, right, the equator is going to be moving faster than an area up north, right? You get that? The equator's got a larger radius than something up further, so the equator travels faster than the top of the Earth, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely, yeah.
Right. So what I want you to do is picture yourself on the equator, and you've got a massive cannon, okay? And you're facing north, exactly north, right? And you fire that cannon from north. The point that you fired that cannon from, the Earth is moving tangentially at about 1,000 miles an hour, because that's the equator, right? To the east, okay? So the projectile leaves the cannon with that momentum of 1,000 miles an hour to the east, and it's traveling north. But as it travels north, it travels over areas of the Earth that are now traveling slower than the momentum that was imparted on it. Even though the Earth is rotating at one speed, obviously the tangential speeds are different. It started at 1,000 miles an hour, but as it goes north, it's going to be going over an area that's now 950 miles an hour to the east. Now an area that's 900 miles an hour to the east. But it doesn't lose that momentum that was imparted into it. So as it travels north, it's actually traveling to the east faster than the rotation of the Earth. So what you find with projectiles that are fired north from the equator is that it will deflect to the right and go faster than the rotation of the Earth, because they maintain that tangential momentum from the equator. So
if the Earth is spinning at different tangential rates?
Yeah, there's different tangential rates. Like, the entire Earth is rotating at 0.0694 RPM, but the equator's got a bigger radius than an area up north. So the surface of the Earth has to move faster to do one rotation in a day.
Yeah, so that would mean, though, that right up near the North Pole, the stars and the sun and the moon, they should be moving across the sky at completely different speeds from wherever you are on the Earth. From different.
Well, no, it would all, they would always go across the stars would always go across the sky at 15 degrees per hour, because that's how fast the Earth is rotating.
But it would appear differently from the equator to way up here.
No, the tangential speed of the Earth wouldn't influence, what you see out in the stars, because that's very small compared to the actual movement of the Earth itself. But the entire Earth is moving at the same speed. The entire Earth is rotating at one speed. But like a ball or any circular object will have different tangential speeds at different points. Now, what I said about the ballistic projectile, this isn't just, saying something. This is what the military actually use. Every artillery manual in the world shows that you have to use these corrections for the rotation of the Earth. Sniper manuals, let me see, specifically, which one was it? Army Sniper Training Manual, Field Manual number 2310, is a sniper manual that contains corrections for Coriolis when you're firing over 1,000 yards. So why would the military train snipers and artillery operators to correct for the rotation of the Earth if the rotation of the Earth wasn't a thing?
That's difficult to answer.
It's not really. The Earth's a globe that's rotating is the answer. It's pretty simple.
Well, I'm not going to be convinced that easily, mate. There's so many tricks and fallacies out there. I don't exactly trust the military, mate, to be honest. But there you go.
I mean, I was in the military for many years, and I didn't find any reason to mistrust them.
Well,
I mean, I wasn't always told where I was going on board a submarine, but that's different.
is that what you did, submarine?
Yeah, I was a submariner.
What role did you play
I
in
was,
that?
I was a nuclear engineer. I was a onboard artificer.
Okay. How many years did you do that?
About 7, 8.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if the Earth wasn't rotating, then you wouldn't need to take the Earth's rotation into account. But you absolutely do. There's a story about when the British were fighting a naval battle in the Southern Hemisphere. And because in the Southern Hemisphere the corrections would have to be reversed, the British weren't used to fighting in the Southern Hemisphere. So the initial corrections they put on meant that their projectiles were twice the distance off than they should have been. But once they corrected it for being in the Southern Hemisphere, all of a sudden their projectiles were hitting. So I do have a guy that I speak to regularly who's a scientist that deals with the shape of the Earth and gravity and a lot of other things. His name's Tony, and he was wondering if he could come on and have a little bit of a chat with you.
With me?
Yeah, if you're okay, I can bring him on now to join the conversation.
If you want.
Yeah, as long as you don't mind. I don't want you to feel like you're being ganged up on. But I've just got bachelor degrees, right? I'm a lowly bachelor student, graduate. Tony is a PhD guy, right? He is. I think I'm smart, but compared to Tony, I'm an amoeba. Okay.
So what's the reason for him coming on then?
He might be able to give some, answers or explanations that are better than mine. I think he had something he wanted to say about the bridges and gravity in particular. As long as you're okay with it, it's up to you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, fine. I'm all right.
All right. Tony, I'll send you a link on Discord, bud.
Oh, so he's just contacted you now and said, can I come on?
Well, he's in the chat watching.
Yeah. So you haven't planned for him to come on, he's just asked?
No, yeah, he's just asked.
Okay,
he likes to come on and help you. One thing he does when he comes on quite often is tells me that I'm wrong and corrects me, which I always very much appreciate.
Yeah, well, we can all be wrong no matter how smart we are.
Yeah. All right, but
it's a complex subject, to say the least.
So I can pass you a bunch of those manuals for sniper training and artillery that show the rotation of the Earth taken into account. So, yeah, whenever you talk about sniper or anything like that, it's kind of a blow to the flat Earth because Coriolis is needed for their what they do. Any other big points you want to talk about before Tony gets here?
I don't actually understand the Coriolis effect at all, really, because if we live on a globe that's spinning one direction and there's no up or down in space, and what was I going to say? If gravity is pushing from all directions equally, as we're told, then why is the Coriolis effect even a thing? I would expect.
Well, Coriolis has nothing to do with gravity. Coriolis is to do with the rotation of the Earth.
Hang on. I would expect a Coriolis effect if the top half of the globe was turning that way and the bottom half was turning the other way. That's when I would expect the Coriolis effect to be opposite below the equator. But it's all equal, is it? So why?
No,
why
the Coriolis effect is opposite either side of the equator. It goes the opposite way.
Why?
Well, because of the way that the Earth's rotating. If you were to look at it from underneath, it would look like it was rotating a different way. So because the Earth is rotating to the east, when you're going south, that means that it would be deflected the other way because you are going to an area of lower and lower tangential velocity. Anyway, Tony
it's equal. It's equal all over. So no, it doesn't make sense.
What do you mean
the
equal
Coriolis
all
effect
over?
Doesn't even make sense.
The Coriolis effect makes... what I described to you about the way a cannon fires, that is a result of the Coriolis forces. That is what we expect Coriolis to do. Coriolis is nothing to do with gravity. Coriolis is all to do with the fact that the Earth is rotating and conservation of momentum is a thing. So, anyway, let me introduce Tony, PhD Tony. Tony, how are you doing?
I'm feeling a lot better today, thank you.
I'm very glad to hear that, mate. You sounded a bit rough last time.
Yeah, I was. But I'm not at my normal setup. My bathroom's being fixed, so...
That's fine.
You'll have to...
Tony,
Is
this
he
is
Australian or South African? I can't hear.
He's definitely Australian. Tony, this is Al. And you said you wanted something to say to him?
I had several things to say to him. One is, and sort of taking things back to the train discussion. Since I'm Australian, I have sort of a better understanding of what's happening with trains in Australia. It turns out that the flattest, longest stretch of rail is in Australia. It's between a town called Chakula in South Australia and Kalgoorlie in Western Australia. And the reason I wanted to bring that up and bring it up in sort of in relation to the statement you had from an engineer is that all of the distances between any 2 points, if you give me any 2 points on Earth's surface and you tell me their latitude and longitude, I can work out what the distance between them is using the spherical distance formula. And that's always accurate. And in particular for Takula to Kalgoorlie, the spherical distance formula gives a separation of 1,250 kilometers. And the actual track separation, which we can measure, because, it's just a track on the ground, is 1,281 kilometers. So this agreement between the measured distance between these 2 points and the spherical distance calculation, and that is always true. Pick any 2 points. It'll always be true that the spherical distance formula does a good job. That shows us that the Earth is spheroidal. And so your friend, who's an engineer, he may not have had any direct contact with the spherical Earth model, but he has used the spherical distance formula because all distance calculations on Earth are accurately given by the spherical distance formula. So when he's working out how much power line he needs to lay out, he is unknowingly using the spheroidal Earth. Does that make sense?
It would make more sense to him, I guess. It would be better to have a conversation with him, really, because I'm only regurgitating what he's said. So,
Yes.
What
I
was the
also
distance?
wanted. Sorry, carry on.
What was the distance of this railway line?
1,281 kilometres.
So that's a lot of curvature. Or not.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of curvature in 1,281 kilometres. So
that railway would have to have took curvature into account.
yes, exactly.
So does it change from country? This is why I said, an Australian railway, because I was talking about the sheer distance in it over maybe the UK. So I don't know. You'd have to talk to him.
But do you accept my central premise? So you seem not to be internalising my central premise. I don't care what country you're in. I don't care if you're in the ocean. I don't care at all. Just give me 2 points, location, and I can accurately tell you the distance between them. And then we can go and test that. And that will always work for every pair of points. And if you want me to believe that the Earth isn't spheroidal, all you need to do, this is an open challenge, find 2 points on Earth where the spherical distance formula doesn't provide a good approximation for their separation.
But we did do work before it was accepted that we live on a globe. There was life before the globe, guys.
There was no railway before the globe. There was definitely no railway before the globe.
There was work, though. There was work laid out, surely.
There was no railway works laid out before the Earth was a globe, no.
When was the Earth a globe, then? Because this is a contention in itself.
The Earth's always been a globe, like forever. That's never, well, apart from before it formed, obviously.
No, listen, there's serious contention about what point we've accepted that it's a globe. Because some people are saying 100 years, some people are saying 2,000 years, which is absolutely
Well, we've known
nonsense.
the Earth's a globe for about 2,500 years. Not everyone's accepted it, but, the smart people have known.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of the early work on spherical geometry, spherical trigonometry, calculation of eclipse durations and how long it is between their recurrences. That work was all done by the ancient Greeks 2,000 years ago using spherical trigonometry that they developed. Their notation, of course, is very different from our notation, but the central theorems are still named after the Greeks who developed them. So Menander, I think, is Menelaus. Menelaus's spherics is sort of the work in which spherical trigonometry is really accepted to have grown as an independent discipline. So your claim that we haven't known for 2,000 years is historically false. We have historical documents in which people were doing these calculations with a spherical Earth.
Yeah. Just because some people have, for centuries, said that the Earth is flat, and some people even created an entire city called Zion, where they had to say the Earth was flat, doesn't mean that the Earth is flat. Like Tony said, there's been maths for centuries that we've based things on, based on the fact that the Earth is a globe. So, anyone that tells you that, oh no, we've been teaching that it's a flat Earth for until 100 years ago, they're just making it up.
Well, how do I know you guys aren't making it up? Eratosthenes has been well and truly debunked.
Eratosthenes has never been debunked.
Yes, it has.
How has Eratosthenes been debunked?
Because he was assuming that the sun was distant. And
he was right with that assumption.
Hang on. His experiment with the sticks it relies totally on the distance to the sun, and he was assuming that the sun was at a distance. It's an absolute fallacy.
Well, yeah, whether it contained fallacious reasoning or not is irrelevant. The assumption that the sun was far away was a pretty good assumption because the sun is 93 million miles away, confirmed by radar measurements in 1967.
But the shadows thing, I can do that in my front room, mate. I can move the light source around and create different shadows just from moving the light source around.
And you would not be able to take the calculations from those shadows and find the radius of the Earth. Flat earthers that say that just don't understand what the Eratosthenes experiment was. Now, assuming just 2 points, you possibly could get the location of the sun on a flat Earth with just 2 points or something. However, as soon as you add more than 2 points to it, it stops working on flat completely. And the more and more points of data that you add, the more and more it shows that the Earth is specifically a globe. A friend of mine, Slice Arcane, did a worldwide Eratosthenes experiment with, I think, 37 different people and mapped it out on known distances on the Earth. If the Earth was flat, the result was there would be multiple positions of the sun at the same time. If the Earth was a globe, the sun is in one position really far away. So the Eratosthenes has never been debunked, it's only been misunderstood.
Well, I would phrase that slightly differently.
Okay.
So the criticism that only 2 points is insufficient on its own to determine the geometry of Earth is a fair one. But that doesn't make Eratosthenes' result wrong. Instead, what you do is you refine the methodology by introducing more points, as Craig just explained. So the criticism that there is a hole in Eratosthenes' methodology. Eratosthenes actually had other reasons. The sphericity of the Earth was an accepted fact by the time that he was doing his experiment. So his experiment was not intended to prove that the Earth was round. His experiment was designed to calculate its radius, so he didn't need additional points. So the common claim that Eratosthenes proved the Earth is round, no, that's not what he was trying to do. He was trying to estimate Earth's radius, which he did a reasonably good job of.
Pretty damn close.
But it is fair to say that as an experiment to demonstrate that the Earth is spheroidal, it has logical holes. But as Craig has just explained, those holes can be filled by taking multiple points. On a flat Earth, the shadow angles from multiple sites at different latitudes cannot be reconciled with a single sun over a flat Earth. The geometry of the flat Earth cannot be made to reconcile with the observable data without introducing some form of bizarre light physics for which we have no evidence. But I did actually want to address one other point that you had about boats and using boats to measure curvature. And in fact, we do that. So we put GPS receivers on research ships and in buoys, and we use the GPS positions to map sea surface height. This is done in the calibration of satellite sea surface altimetry, where you send up a satellite to measure the distance between it and the sea surface, and you can plot that up. In order to demonstrate that those results are accurate, you actually need to know you're getting the right answers. So to confirm that, we use two data sets, and one of them is tide gauge data, but the other data set is actually buoys and research vessels carrying GPS receivers. And from those, we can not only confirm that the Earth is curved, that the Earth's ocean surface is well approximates the reference geoid, the reference ellipsoid. But we can also confirm that sea surface varies. For instance, this is my favourite example. Sea surface in southern India is about 55 metres lower than sea surface in northern India or Bangladesh or Pakistan.
Really? 55
As you go
meters?
up yeah.
Bloody hell, I didn't know that.
So, unfortunately, I can't bring up the plot because I'm not I don't have access to my computer at the moment. But this is actually sort of the southern tip of the Indian Peninsula has the lowest mean sea level in the world. It's 110 meters lower than the reference ellipsoid. This is a combination, but that tilt in sea level between southern India and northern India was actually known about well before satellite altimetry from the Great Trigonometrical Survey. Archdeacon Pratt worked out from the gravitational data and the plumb line deflections that the gravitational attraction of the Himalayas was pulling the water up towards the Himalayas. Meanwhile, there's a gravitational low just south of India called the Indian Ocean Gravitational Low, or IOGL.
Oh, wow. This is why I love having you on, Tony, because I learn shit all the time.
Well, these are in my videos. I can just tell that you haven't been watching my channel.
Honestly, whenever I get a notification, I go on, but YouTube has this habit of turning off all notifications on all channels for me. So if I want to watch people, I have to specifically go to their channel. It's annoying.
So you were talking about sea levels there. Interestingly, the Suez Canal was built between two level seas. How is that possible on a globe?
Well, the variation in sea level there happens to be very flat. That isn't generally true. And it's got to do with the fact that, for instance, the eastern end there is not a large continental basin. It's the Red Sea, which is to some extent hydrodynamically separate from the Indian Ocean. If it were connected to, if you sort of ran out into the Indian Ocean, you'd notice that actually the western edge of the Indian Ocean, in fact, the western edge of all oceans tend to be higher than the eastern side. And the reason for this is because the Earth is rotating towards the east. This means that the water tends to pile up in the western side of the reservoir. This is called western boundary current intensification.
The water piles up. I mean, I thought the water was all kept in check by gravity, completely spherical.
No, that's false. So it's a combination of it's a combination of gravity and rotation. So an equipotential surface is not one on which gravitational potential is constant. It's one on which the gravitational and rotational effects are constant.
Yeah.
It's a common misconception. Sea level's a lot more complicated than people like to imagine that it is. Right. But there is a rotational effect on sea surface geometry.
Yeah, one thing you have to remember, Al, is that Earth isn't completely uniform. There is different distributions in mass. This, what I'm showing you here, is an exaggerated gravity map of Earth. All right, this isn't what Earth looks like. No one's claiming this is what Earth looks like. This is a map of the gravitational forces that Earth exerts based on the distribution of mass within the Earth. Tony, could you explain a bit why it looks so wonky?
Yeah, and you can see that bluish dot just to the south of India. right? You can see that blue circle there. That's what I was talking about, the Indian Ocean gravitational low.
So that's a point on Earth where the gravitational forces are a lot lower than everywhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
Why would that be?
Yeah. That's got a complicated geodynamic. Actually, there was a paper published earlier this year in which people did computer modeling, and what they surmised happened is that a sheet of subducting sediment tore off and basically descended in sort of a blanket formation, pushing denser material further away from the surface, and that lighter material flowed on top of the blanket. That's their reconstruction of what happened there.
So it's just different distributions of mass within the Earth. Like some areas of mass that are more dense compared to some areas of mass that are less dense in their distance from the center, right?
Yes.
So you see how this would mean that sea level, just because of the effects of gravity alone, because gravity is acting differently at different positions in the world, sea level isn't always going to be exactly the same. And like Tony said, there's also the rotational component that we need to take into account. Not only that, but other effects like basic currents and the way that the water moves and things like that can affect sea levels. You know, there's lots of different factors into what actually causes how high the sea level is compared to what the mean sea level is. But Earth isn't uniform, Earth's gravitational influence isn't uniform, and neither is Earth's sea level.
I thought that it was a uniform 9.5 meters per second squared all over.
Oh God,
the Earth.
no! The gravitational acceleration on Earth it varies from where you are. So at the equator, it's about 9.79 meters per second squared. At the poles, it's about 9.81 meters per second squared. There's a slight difference. There's the main reason for that is because the equator, the circumference of the equator is slightly larger than the circumference from pole to pole by about 42 miles. This means that when you're standing at the equator, you're actually further away from the center of the Earth. And because gravity creates a force that's proportional to the square of the distance between the masses, that means the further away you are, the less gravitational influence you feel. So when you're at the equator, you're further away from the center of the Earth. Plus, you need to take into account the centrifugal acceleration created by being at the point on Earth with a tangential speed of 1,000 miles an hour. When you're at the poles, you're slightly closer to the center of the Earth, and you don't have that centrifugal acceleration throwing you away. So the gravitational acceleration that you would feel at the poles would be slightly stronger than you would at the equator.
But
this is why gold. Sorry, go on.
Go on, Al. Sorry.
No, I didn't speak.
Okay. Well,
I'm trying to understand what Craig's saying.
Okay. What I was going to say is you asked an extremely good question earlier, which is how can we tell that this is true? So we say that gravity varies, and we actually have instruments for measuring gravitational acceleration, and we noticed quite early on that Earth's gravitational field varied a little bit, but it definitely varied. And actually, we can use this. This is something that gets used in real life in mineral exploration. So if I'm over an oil field that has lots of gas and oil under the ground, that material is less massive than solid rock, than an equal volume of solid rock. So the gravitational acceleration above the oil field is lower than it is for other areas. So by using precise gravitational measurements, we can actually work out where mineral deposits might be underneath the surface. So if it's heavier, it might be mineral rich. If it's lighter, it might be gas rich or oil rich. And this is something that mining companies pay an immense amount of money for. And we've actually been doing this for over 100 years. successful proof of concept was during the First World War in Hungary, but the first commercial use was actually in Texas. The Nash Oil Dome in 1924 was discovered using gravity gradiometry, measuring the gravity gradient. And that's the first commercial oil field that was found purely on the basis of gravimetric analysis. But this is something we've been doing for over 100 years reliably, and oil companies spend an enormous amount of money on gravimetric surveys, and people produce high precision, high quality instruments so that these surveys can be done. And indeed, that picture of the Earth that Craig was showing you earlier, that's the GRACE data, the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment. That's a satellite mission. I've worked on developing processing strategies for that data. That particular mission is sensitive enough that we can use satellites to monitor droughts and floods, because the gravitational signal of the water, that change in gravitational signal, is large enough for the satellites to detect.
Yeah. And they use a similar method and to actually navigate military submarines. Modern military submarines use something called gravity gradient navigation, where, like it in this picture shows, there's a difference in gravitational acceleration in different parts of the Earth. The Earth's gravitational field, it's been extensively mapped, right? So they developed a method where they could use extremely accurate accelerometers on board a submarine, that as the submarine travels, the difference in mass will make the accelerometers act differently, just like I showed you there. And this is something that is used in real life. So they use that, and they will get a real-time map of the gravitational acceleration around them, and they will compare that to these maps, like the one that we've showed you, and pinpoint the location in real time. It's very much like just using a normal map and comparing what you see on the map to real-world geological or features or buildings, right? So the fact that we use Earth's gravity not only to find minerals and stuff like Tony's explained, but to navigate billion-pound submarines shows that gravity is, an empirical fact of nature that is used.
What year was gravity discovered?
Well, it depends on who you attribute it to.
In what sense?
Yeah. I mean, Newton came up with his law of universal gravitational attraction in 1667, but that doesn't mean that was the first discovery of gravity.
It says 1666 on the internet, mate.
No, it doesn't. Flat Earthers made that up, actually.
Did they really?
Yeah, it's 1667. Flat Earthers just like to do 666. But no, that wasn't really the discovery of gravity. That's just when Newton devised his universal law of gravitational acceleration. What was before that, Tony, what was the kind of discussions around gravity? No.
Well, Galileo was doing experiments on and he was not alone. There were a bunch of other people whose names escape me now. One of the myths about Galileo is that he dropped balls from the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But that's not true. Actually, that experiment was done by a Dutch researcher. But there were a bunch of people who were asking important questions well before Newton. So there's a good book called The Hunt for Earth's Gravity, or The Hunt for Earth's Gravity, that I would highly recommend. And it starts its discussion with Galileo.
Yeah.
I would expect to feel the effects of gravity on my own body, to be honest.
You do. Right, so stand up and hold your leg up for hold one of your legs up straight for 45 minutes and tell me you don't feel the effects of gravity on your body. Right? I go to the gym 6 times a week. Right? I've been on a massive health kick because I'm having an amputation and I needed to lose weight and I need to get strong so it can work. So I'm at the gym 6 times a week, right? You tell me there's no effect on gravity when I put higher plates on that bar. Why is that bar getting heavier? Why am I struggling to lift things up if there's no effect of gravity on these things? The higher the mass, the stronger the gravitational force. The heavier it's going to feel, the more force you need to push it the other way. Of course you feel the effects of gravity. That's why you can't jump 1,000 feet in the air.
Well, I have a different objection to that question. Do you believe that you are the most sensitive and accurate scientific observational instrument available to mankind?
No, I
because
don't think
if you're not, then you're conceding the possibility that we have instruments that are vastly more accurate and vastly more sensitive than you are, and maybe we should be listening to them rather than individual anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
This is. I think that you seem a well-intentioned and intellectually honest guy,
Which is nice.
But that question just isn't appropriate. There are multiple levels on which logically it just fails to be relevant to the discussion.
Yeah.
We have measured gravity using instruments that are purpose designed, produce repeatable, reproducible, usable results that yield enormous practical benefits. And saying, well, I don't feel it, or I don't see it, or I don't understand it, isn't engaging in the conversation. That's just putting up your personal threshold as something as an obstacle that I can't do anything about. I can't do anything about your perceptions, but I can show you instrumental data.
So, is gravity a bit of a sticking point for you, Al?
Well, yeah, I think it is with all flat earthers. Yeah. Yeah. I think obviously we think the globe is a concept, so they needed something to make us believe that this concept is possible. So it was an invented thing, and it can be fudged, and you can create machines that are.
But why would someone pay someone like Tony a buttload of money to use gravity to find minerals? Why would companies invest in this?
Was this Tony's career? Was it?
It is now.
Yeah, this is literally what Tony does. He uses gravitational acceleration around the world to find things underground.
Well, that's pretty hard for me to refute personally, isn't it? What am I supposed to say to that? I'm not going to just call you bullshitters, am I? I'm not in that game.
Well, that's refreshing, isn't it, Tony? Because that's what normally happens.
A lot of people in your position would, but regardless of my personal testimony, there's a lot of scientific literature out there. There's a lot of scientific. This is something we do, and you can look up. And I think So obviously, I've been. This was not my initial. My original. Study was actually paleo sea level and post-glacial rebound. So that's, but the gravity field is closely tied to that. And so I sort of transitioned. But I've spent 30 years studying the shape of the Earth and the character of Earth's gravitational field. So I perceive myself to have technical data and technical knowledge that the average person doesn't. And I don't expect you to know about gravimetric mineral surveying. I don't expect you to know about how we map the ocean floor using gravity. I don't expect you to know any of that because that's not your job. You don't need to know that sort of shit. And that's why I sort of come into these, is to sort of just let you know. Well, we actually have this data that makes that sort of makes the stuff that you're suggesting redundant or not possible.
I mean, there are other people in my position that say, yes, there is a force, but it can be possible on a plane. It's electromagnetism and all this stuff. So it's hard for me personally, without having a scientific background, to call you out or to call flat earthers out even. I look at arguments between flat earthers and globers. I don't know who's right because I haven't got the scientific background to actually pinpoint.
That's absolutely fair. That Tony has a PhD, right? I only wish I had some of the knowledge that Tony has. And in the same way, I'm a lot smarter than a lot of the people. Smart. Maybe smart is the wrong word to use. I'm more educated in certain areas than a lot of other people. But I know things that you might not know because I did a degree in physics. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means that you have, there's no reason you would know these things,
Absolutely. What I would say, Craig, is there are flat earthers with PhDs as well.
I've never met one.
Very, very smart flat earthers.
I've never met a flat earther who has any kind of degree in science. In fact, I've got a standing challenge that if you can find me a real flat earther that can show me they have a degree, master's level or higher in physics, I'll delete my channel.
Really?
Yeah.
You've heard of Gav? Dell, Beyond the Imaginary Curve?
Yeah, Gav doesn't have a PhD. He lied.
He lied?
Yes. Yeah, that was discovered ages ago.
Well, I never heard that, obviously. You're supposed to have... Did you not have a degree in mathematics as well?
No. He says a lot of things, but he also thinks pouring water on a ball disproves gravity, so...
No, that was Dell. And that was right.
Yeah, with Gav standing next to him with the camera, going, "Yeah, give it a spin." Yeah.
Right. So he's straight up lying.
Here's one thing about gravity that's very important, though, right? I mean, obviously, gravity is real. It's something that is practically impossible to deny with the way it's used in industry. But one really important thing about gravity is the fact that gravity creates an equal force. From every direction, right? And that comes with a very specific outcome. When you reach a certain mass, that gravitational force is strong enough that it will pull equally in all directions and make whatever it is into a sphere. It's termed as the potato radius, right? Once something is big enough and it's got enough mass, it will make itself a sphere because of the way that gravity is acting on it. And this is why, simply, most of the things we see in space are spheres. Unless you look at things like Mars's moons, Phoebus and whatever they're called. They're very tiny, like 30 kilometers across or something, maybe even smaller. They're not big enough to have gravity form them into a sphere. But Earth's moon, which is like 1/5 the size of Earth, is more than big enough that the moon's gravity made it into a sphere. So the fact that gravity is real and works on this principle of inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the masses, the natural result of that is that Earth will become a globe.
Well, there's an implicit assumption in there that whatever the object that is deforming has the mean material strength of Earth, or of a rocky planet.
Yeah.
And so, if you ascribe the Earth a ridiculously high material strength, or an infinite material strength, then you can suggest that the Earth can be flat and mass still attracts mass. Because Al, you've asked another really good question, in the sense that I consider gravity and the shape of the Earth to be different topics. If I was trying to demonstrate to somebody the shape of the Earth, I wouldn't use gravity. Gravity wouldn't feature in. Pardon?
No, you shouldn't need to. No, absolutely not.
No. So so to me, they're separate topics. Now, even if you accept the reality of gravity, if you accept the explanations, and I actually encourage you to go and research gravimetric mineral exploration, gravimeters, how they're used in the mining industry, etc., etc. I encourage you to read up on that, because there's a lot of material there that you won't have been taught about because it hasn't been relevant to you, but it is relevant to you now. You're trying to ask questions about the nature of the Earth.
Yeah.
You do need to know about this stuff. So I'd encourage you not to take my word for it.
Because
but to take this as just watch back through this or whatever, note down a few key terms, and then do some research onto that and see what you find.
Mm-hmm.
But the shape of the Earth is a different thing. Even if you accept gravity, the evidence for the shape of the Earth, irrefutable as it is, it's a different concept. From gravity.
Yeah, I accept that. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much for talking to us, Tony.
No problem. I'll take off then.
I'm going to move on to my next subject, though.
Okay.
Well, Tony,
You
thank
can
you very
stick
much
around
for
if you
coming on,
want.
as always, and I'm glad you're feeling a bit better.
Thank you. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yep. Have a good day,
See you,
buddy.
Tony.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah. Props to PhD Tony. I've always very much enjoyed him coming on. One of the reasons I really, really appreciate Tony is because he's not afraid to tell me I'm talking bullshit and correct me, which makes me better at what I do. So, thank you, Tony.
Of course. Craig, this is one of the reasons I'm coming on to do this. Not because I think I'm the big I am debater. I'm coming on for myself, for personal growth, personal learning, to try and understand the arguments from the other side, rather than just living in an echo chamber, which is not healthy, as I'm sure you'll agree.
That. Yeah.
You had a very interesting chat with Rachie recently.
Yeah, Rachie's in the chat. Hi, Rachie.
Who's obviously done a U-turn. What I would ask her, I'm not criticising her, but what I would ask her, because I was sitting there, I watched the whole thing, and I was going, go on then, talk about NASA. Come on, talk about NASA, love. I was thinking, are you going to refute everything you've said about NASA and now start believing in NASA again? That would be my question. And it's my question to another Craig, Craig Pinnock, Sea Truth. Got a big, long, complicated name, but he's now come onto my feeds. Who's Toon put me in touch with him.
Hi, STST. I'm pretty sure he's in the chat as well.
No, Craig something.
Yeah, he's called
Craig.
Speak Truth on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, he's in the chat as well, is he? Well, I'll ask him the same question. Are you now fully believing in NASA again now? Because that's hard to go back on. I understand.
STST doesn't have any issues with NASA. I'm not sure about Rachie, but what issues with NASA are you talking about? Because I've never been shown something by a flat earther that is apparently debunking NASA that I couldn't explain.
Sorry, say that again. You broke up there, mate.
I said I've never been shown anything by a flat earther about NASA that is a problem that I couldn't explain and show. They've never done anything that is lying, as far as I can see. And I'd love you to try and show me some of their apparent lies, and we could talk about them.
Well, that was my next subject, so let's go. I mean, I know you speak for yourself, but most of the globe defenders that come to my page openly admit that the moon landings are a hoax. They openly admit that evolution and the Big Bang is a hoax. They're saying that the globe is created. The globe is a creation. Michael Toon's the same. Mark McFarlane's the same. A couple of others are the same. So I know you speak for yourself, but you're not the only glober that refutes NASA landing on the moon. Mark McFarlane, for example, believes in the space station but refutes the moon landings. And I'm thinking, well, oh, so you agree that they've lied, but you're now going to believe in the space station that's been up there since 1998 with absolutely no technical problems whatsoever that I've ever heard of.
They had loads of technical problems. There's been holes and shit in it.
Well, what about spaceships docking at 17,500 miles an hour?
Yeah,
That's
what about
pure
it?
science fiction, Craig. Pure science fiction.
Why? If both things are going at that speed, then there's no problem. Speed is a relative thing.
Show me this footage, because in 25 years,
I could show you lots of footage of dockings, and you're just going to say that you don't believe it.
No, because they're just close up and they're lame. I want to see a spaceship with Earth in the background approaching the ISS and docking.
there's
Like
plenty
I want
of
to see
footage
a
of
full.
that.
I want to see a full video from a rocket launch, leaving the Earth, seeing Earth get smaller in the background.
Yeah, there's plenty of those.
Lame.
Again, I've shown those loads.
What? A continuous film?
Yes.
From
Yeah, I've shown
Earth to
loads.
space. All they do is cut to CGI. Once the rocket's got to a certain
I've
height.
literally shown rocket launches from Earth to space, and people just go, "Oh well, it's fake." I mean, you know, it's there, it exists.
Where?
All right, hold on. Oh, here we go. Yeah, got it there. I'll just speed it up. It's at 400% already. There you go, uncut into space.
And that's it.
There we go, there's Earth's curve in the background. Exactly what you guys asked for.
Well, I just said to you there, they cut to CGI at a certain point.
No, there was no cut, that was the separation of the rockets. There was no cuts.
I agree that the rockets take off, obviously, but that footage is not continuous.
Yeah, it is. There's no cuts. There's a flash of light when the boosters are separated, but there's no cuts.
No, from the launch to the camera on board, there's a cut.
Well, because they're showing you there that it's, and then as soon as it takes off, for the second it's taking off, let me go back to it.
That's real.
So
that's real.
so there we go.
That's CGI. That's CGI. That's where it. That's where the
why?
fakery kicks
How?
in.
Okay, have you got any evidence that that's CGI? Because that is as it's taking off. But they show you right. So there it is. It's taking off, and now here's the camera on board that you asked for. This is from takeoff. So what evidence do you have that this is CGI?
I said to the space station. I said continuous footage to the space station.
No, you didn't. You just said into space, but you know,
SpaceX
show their stuff live.
To the space station with Earth.
But
in the
here's the
background.
thing: NASA and SpaceX, they're under no obligation to prove things to you. They have cameras on board, like this camera on board. That's not there to prove anything to anyone. It's an engineering camera, so the engineers can watch what's going on. You know, NASA don't care that flat earthers don't believe them. It doesn't bother them at all. They just doing what they're doing. They're under no obligation to ever prove anything to anybody.
What, with 20 billion a year, they've got no obligation whatsoever. I would say that's
well, no,
quite
they
a lot
don't
of
need to
obligation.
prove anything because they are just doing what they are told by the American government. They're a federal agency. The government give them money and say, "You do this." That's it. Nothing about what NASA does is about proving space exists because they know it exists. Nothing about NASA is about proving they went to the moon because they know they went to the moon. They don't care that some people don't believe them. They're just going to do it again anyway.
They're just going to keep showing us lame footage and give us excuse after excuse
you
after
say
excuse.
it's lame, but have you got any evidence that it's CGI?
Yeah, my discernment, my eyes.
Yeah, no, that's not evidence. That's just you saying things. What training professionally do you have to determine what is and isn't CGI? Because I'm a videographer. I create CGI myself. So I can say that I am trained to determine what is and isn't CGI. And that's not CGI. What training do you have to determine what is and isn't CGI just by looking at it?
I don't feel I need training, Craig. I think there's a thing called discernment.
Discernment doesn't give you the ability to tell what is and isn't real just by looking at it. You say it's CGI, but there's no evidence it's CGI.
The ability from 1969 onwards to know that what they are showing us is nonsense. I can see it.
Yeah, what? No. We need evidence. We don't need. Oh, well, I know it is. We need evidence that it's fake.
All right. The evidence of the astronaut in space with the Earth spinning in the background. Have you seen that one?
Which one do you mean?
It's from the 70s, and there's an astronaut in space, and the Earth is spinning in the background, which is absolutely nonsense. You can't see the Earth spin, and it's still out there.
When is this from? I said you could send me links and stuff. Could you send me that link?
Not right now. No, I'd have to do that.
Is it the one where he's on a tether?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you've been fooled by flat earthers once again. A flat earther called what's his bloody name? I can't remember. It's a big flat earther anyway. So a flat earther has taken that footage, right? That is it's a long bit of footage, and they've sped it up a lot. So it looks like the astronaut's flailing about really fast, and it looks like the Earth's going really fast underneath them, but it's not. That footage has been sped up by a flat earther and then fed to you, so you could go, "Oh, it looks fake."
Oh, well, I'd have to look at it again and see what the source is of it, because
it wasn't Leo. It was
from NASA.
Oh, what's his bloody name? It's the guy who couldn't figure out that Earth rotates and had to delete a video recently. But anyway, yeah. So that specific one you're talking about, you've been fooled by flat earthers who lie to you very, very easily. And this is something you need to realize, Al, is that flat earthers lie so easy. Like, really, really easily. Taboo Conspiracy, that's the guy's name. Taboo Conspiracy, thank you. Requiem, I appreciate that. Yeah, so flat earthers lie so easily. Especially someone like Dearth. It's almost pathological, right? And because it's so easy for them to lie and present you with stuff, that you will just eat that up. And that's not having a go at you. That's because you don't believe NASA. So you've got a cognitive dissonance to believe anything that is shown to you that could say that NASA is lying. But everything that you've seen, I can guarantee this, everything that you've seen that is apparently disproving NASA is something that a flat earther has presented or edited in some way.
No, it's not. That's nonsense,
no, it is.
Mate. I look at NASA's footage and go, "Oh my goodness."
So you look at NASA's footage and just you don't believe it because what?
It's not realistic, Craig. It is
realistic. Have you got any evidence it's not realistic? Just saying it's not realistic isn't evidence. Yeah, what should it look like?
No stars in most of their footage. Then there's some stars. Then there's
it depends on. Do you know how it works when if you so let's say you want to get a picture of Earth in space, right? You have to lower the light coming in so that you can actually get details, right? If you were to open the aperture enough to capture the light of the stars as well as Earth would just be a washed out mess. But there is certain cameras that can do longer exposures that will have the light of the stars and Earth in. It just depends on the camera. But you couldn't if you were to take your cell phone outside on a clear night and take a photograph of the moon, there would be no stars in that photograph.
If you zoomed in, you would.
No, they wouldn't, because there's too much light. For you to be able to make out details of the moon with your cell phone, it close the aperture enough to not allow in the light from the stars. That's how you get detail in things.
Right, what else we got? Mars landings.
Yeah, what about them?
You believe that?
Belief is irrelevant. The evidence shows it happened.
What evidence?
All the video evidence, the data. I mean,
worth nothing. It's worth absolutely nothing, Craig.
who says?
Video evidence. You think video evidence is proof that they're on Mars? Then
It's
then
evidence.
I'm starting to lose faith in your credibility.
Well, what evidence would you like?
What evidence can they give us that
They
they're
can
actually on Mars, other than videos?
pictures, data, radio signals coming
Data
from
NASA,
Mars.
That's not going to be.
You know that we can literally point radio telescopes at Mars and receive the data from the robots that are there.
Yeah, 33 million miles away.
Yes. Yeah.
That's its nearest point.
Yeah, and
You can see a dusty planet reflecting sunlight from 33 million miles. I want some of the carrots
why
you're
not?
eating, pal.
Why couldn't you? What reason couldn't you see that?
No chance. 33
Why?
million miles, your eyes can't see that. It's a dusty planet reflecting sunlight. No chance can you see that.
That's how you
33 million miles
see. You
away.
see by light bouncing off of something, and your eyes don't have a limit as to how far the light can come to go into them. So why shouldn't we be able to see Mars when it's a massive thing in space that can bounce a lot of light off of it?
It wouldn't be that bright. It twinkles, mate. It twinkles.
The twinkling is actually atmosphere. It doesn't twinkle when you look at it properly.
You might see a pale dot, but you're
No,
not going to see
I've
something
used
twinkling
my
and
daughter's
shimmering.
telescope to actually look at it. It's definitely there. It's a red planet.
It's definitely there. Yeah, it's definitely there.
It's a red
But
planet.
with a P900, it does not show a spherical, dusty.
Well, that's because a
pale
P900
dot.
is a shitty camera with really bad optics that is not a telescope. But I actually have a video someone sent me of someone using a P900 and getting actual proper photos of the planets and stuff, relatively good, when they put it in focus. So again, what you say you don't believe the videos? Well, that's kind of a you problem. What evidence would you like that there is something on Mars?
Well, you're saying you believe the videos. There's no difference.
There's no reason to not say that the videos are real. They're videos coming from Mars. We can see where the data is coming from. So if the data is coming from a specific place and then they put that data together in a video, that shows that video came from that place. So you keep avoiding the question now. The question is, what evidence would you like?
I'd have to go myself, Craig, because you cannot trust people.
Well, how many people have been to Mars?
You cannot trust the system. Hang on. Let me speak. You cannot trust the system. You admitted yesterday only when I was watching a video of yours that you cannot trust the government. The government, the NASA are a government agency, like you just stated earlier, like we all know. We don't trust their data. We don't trust their videos. We don't trust their footage.
That's a problem with you. That's called personal incredulity. What evidence do you have that it's not real? And again, you didn't answer the question, Al. Please, it's just one simple question. Well, actually, you did. You said you'd have to go there, right? But
yes,
there's no one on Mars. No one has gone to Mars.
No, I know that.
But
No
like I
one's
said,
gonna go.
we
No
can
one's been to the moon,
point a
mate.
radio
No
telescope
one's been
at
to the
Mars.
moon.
We can point a radio
No one-
telescope at Mars, and we can pick up the data coming from Mars. So what do you say to that?
The pictures I've seen of Mars are all CGI. Obviously CGI.
Any evidence of that?
Yeah, my own eyes, like I said.
No,
earlier.
your eyes don't
I
have the
don't-
ability to determine what is and isn't CGI when you don't have any training.
I don't need training, Craig.
Do you
I
want
don't
me
need
to test?
training
Do
on this
you want me
one.
to test your ability to determine what is and isn't CGI?
I hold my hands up with some of the science stuff. I have to hold my hands up and say I can't make a refute on this. But not with NASA. You're never, ever going to convince me that NASA are real. It doesn't prove the shape of the Earth.
But you've got no evidence that what they've done isn't real.
Sorry?
You've got no evidence that what they've done isn't real.
What evidence would you need for me to give you? It's almost impossible. You have to use
I would
your
need
discernment.
some. I would need some
Craig,
actual evidence that something NASA has done is fake. But there is no evidence. There's nothing. There is no forensic evidence that suggests what NASA has ever presented is fake. There is no scrutinizing of the videos and data from NASA that suggests that it's fake. There is no engineering or anything from NASA that would ever suggest that it's fake. All there is people going, I don't believe it. That's it. That's the entirety of the evidence against NASA.
How do you prove it, though? You have to use your discernment because you can't prove this stuff yourself. You have to trust them and their data.
But what you have to have is evidence that it's fake. Just distrusting something is kind of a you problem.
Why do you not trust the government?
Well, I don't believe that the government tell the truth about absolutely everything all the time. But NASA is an agency designed for helping, for advancing stuff. And me not saying that the government have always told the truth about everything ever is nothing to do with the American government. That's me talking about the British government. I'm not saying the American government have told the truth about everything ever, but there's evidence of things they've lied about, right? There's things that they've even had to admit that they've lied about. But what there isn't is any evidence that NASA have lied. What we need is evidence, not just people going, I don't trust it.
Well, I saw Stanley Kubrick with some of the NASA crew. That's evidence.
No, you didn't. There's no videos of Stanley Kubrick with the NASA crew. There's no photos of Stanley Kubrick with the NASA crew. You've been fooled.
Oh, was that Photoshop then, was it?
No, it's just not Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick never had a photo with the NASA crew. It didn't happen.
Well, like I said, every single thing that you can throw at this just gets refuted and you just get told you're wrong. It's not even realistic that this many points from this many people are just totally wrong. It's not even realistic, mate.
What isn't realistic?
You're never going to convince me about NASA. Never, ever. Nobody.
But do you have any evidence against them?
What
I need you to do is admit that it's your own personal incredulity that is stopping you believing in NASA. Is that right?
To a degree. To a degree, yeah.
Well, there we go. That's the problem. The problem is your personal incredulity. You will not look at things with an objective eye. You will only look at them with your own bias based on your personal incredulity. That's it.
They would be blowing our minds with the footage in 2023. You can give
I think the footage is pretty mind-blowing.
Stop interrupting. I don't interrupt you.
Sorry,
right?
Apologies.
All they give us, I can't remember what I was saying now. This is the problem when I get interrupted. It really spins my head.
So you said it's not realistic.
It's not realistic that in 2023, I'll give them a pass in 69, right? People, by their very nature, want to impress us. They want to show off, right? I went to Warwick Castle, to the top of that. The first thing I did was a 360 with my iPhone. They go to the moon, they can't even do that. Not realistic, mate.
There's
not
plenty
realistic.
of video from the moon. I don't know what you're on about. There's like hours and hours of footage from the moon.
There is photographs of the moon and
there's videos.
One camera shot.
There's lots of videos from the moon. I don't know what you're on about.
Doesn't do any 360s. That's what you would expect.
There's videos looking all around the moon.
Not a single 360 on its own, no.
Have you looked at every single video from NASA?
The mountains in the background on the moon are clearly pasted on. I know what I'm looking at. I know what
you're saying that, but there's no right on the moon.
Whoa, hang on! Stop interrupting me. Right, I know what a mountain looks like in the distance from being on Earth. You can see detail. You look at the NASA one, right? It's just a blur. It's just a grey blur.
What's the difference between Earth and the moon now?
Hey?
What's the difference between Earth and the moon? The moon doesn't have an atmosphere. Do you not think that things will look different when you're not looking through an atmosphere? Of course they will. There's no refraction. Your ability to perceive distance is going to be really screwed up on the moon because we're on Earth with an atmosphere. It looks like we expect it to look on the moon with no atmosphere.
I agree with you to a degree, but you look at the distances, and they're clearly not real distances. Maybe they're blurry. Maybe you've got a point there, but
I mean,
the
you're
distances.
just saying that.
You can
Like,
just
how
tell.
far away do you think the distance is? Do you know how far the mountains away are supposed to be? Do you know how big those mountains are compared to what you're seeing? Or are you just going, oh, it doesn't look real to me? Because, you know, if I don't want to be nasty, Al, but that's what you're doing. You're just going, well, I don't think it looks real, therefore it's not.
But what else can you do if you can't literally prove it yourself? What else can you do but use your
Look at all the
discernment
third-party data. There is individuals around the world that are nothing to do with any space agency that tracked the entire missions to the moon and back with their own equipment.
They said they'd lost the data.
No, they didn't. That's a lie. Flat Earthers pushed as well.
Oh, here we go. Come on, man. Now I'm getting triggered.
Well, okay, right. We'll talk about that specifically. No, NASA never, ever, ever said they lost data. Okay, what happened was
on film.
No. Again, let me explain. What happened was the original data tapes were reused because that was what they were supposed to do at the time. But none of the data was ever lost. All of the data was transferred to other places before those tapes were reused. Every single bit of data is there. There is no missing data. There is tapes that were recorded over because there literally wasn't enough physical media to store everything on those. So they transferred the data to other places and reused the tapes. No data was ever lost. Look it up, and that is what you will find out. You have been fed another lie by flat earthers.
And they can't afford to buy new tapes with the budget they're on.
No, there wasn't any. There wasn't any tapes. There physically wasn't any more tapes that existed in that time when they were doing it.
Make some more.
They did, but there wasn't enough at the time. When they did that mission, they had to reuse the tapes because that was standard procedure at the time. Because it was in the 60s and 70s and there wasn't as much stuff as there is now. So the standard procedure was just to reuse the tapes. And here's the thing. If you did the slightest bit of research about that, you would find that that's the case. And that anyone that says to you, oh, NASA lost the data, is lying. Because no data was ever lost. And I'll send you all the evidence of that if you like.
Okay, I'm prepared to look at it again. I mean, some of these things are stuff I looked at 6-7 years ago, and I don't feel like I need to go there again. But maybe I do. Maybe I do.
You clearly
You're
do
saying that
because,
it's all flat earthers lying.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because flat earthers lie all of the time. They have to. Like Flat Earth Dave, Dirth, right now, claiming that, oh, this picture of Mars is actually from Greenland and it's from NASA's website. No, it's not. A flat earther made up that meme and then you've lied and said that it's from NASA's website. Flat earthers lie all the time. And if you understand this, one simple fact that you gotta lie to Flerf, then maybe you'll understand that the earth isn't flat and it's liars that are pushing that.
There's definitely liars that are flat earthers, yeah, because they're paid shills. But there's also the same on the globe side.
There's no paid shills on the globe side. There's no such thing.
Yeah, I believe you, mate. I believe you.
No, like who's paying? Right, who's paying us? Is there a payroll department? Like nobody is being paid to debunk the flat Earth.
I don't believe that. I'm sorry.
What?
Who
would pay somebody to debunk the flat Earth?
The people protecting the lie, Craig. Come on, man.
And right, so I'm I'm probably the second biggest debunker in the UK that's active right now, okay? So you would think I would be one of these people getting paid, right?
I would assume so, yeah.
So who's paying me? Can you explain to me why I live in a council flat in Scotland if I'm getting paid by the big scary entity that rules the world? I mean, surely I'd not be in a council flat in Scotland? No one is paying me to debunk the flat earth. Nobody pays anybody to debunk the flat earth, apart from my lovely, lovely subscribers.
Well, maybe that's the deal. No, look, I don't want to go there because I don't want to accuse people of being that. But I think it must exist. I've been called a shill. How ridiculous is that? I've been called a shill.
Exactly, because shills aren't a thing.
well, whatever you want to call it.
In regards to the shape of the Earth, there is no shills. There is nobody doing it and getting paid for doing it. That's not how it works. We're just YouTubers, mate. The only pay we get is what we get from YouTube. Like
so when you call flat earthers liars, you know, the big ones, the big names, what are you suggesting about them then? Are you suggesting they're lying to make money off their own back?
Yeah, pretty much. Durf lies to sell his app at £3 a pop. You will find in any stream, Durf will try to sell his app about 20 times. Point out how it's only £3 for $3, blah, blah, blah. And then he'll point out his merch and this and that. He's a pathological liar that doesn't care about the damage that he does. I
don't watch these guys. I used to watch a few of them when I first got into it, like Eric DeBay and stuff like that. But I don't watch these guys because I'm suspicious about them.
There's two types of flat earthers, right? Okay, there's the ones that blatantly lie and the ones that are dumb as fuck.
So which one am I?
Well, you're not one of the big. I'm talking about the big guys, right? You are somebody that unfortunately has been fooled by these people, and you know that's not something that I will necessarily hold against you, Al, because as many of my audience have seen, some flat earthers do come round. Raichi, Speak Truth, Ranty. If I've got 9 videos on my channel that are interviews with ex-flat earthers, and you will be one of those people.
I will be one of those people.
Yeah, because I don't think you're stupid, Al. I don't think you're stupid. I think that you actually have a modicum of intelligence about you, especially compared to a lot of other flat earthers. I think that you listened quite intently to what Tony was saying and you asked intelligent questions, all right? Unfortunately, you have a large bout of cognitive dissonance that is holding you back, that is giving you this, confirmation bias that is holding you back. You have to disbelieve NASA because that explains that the Earth is flat and they're hiding it. You have to. It's, because that's what you've been programmed to do.
Yeah, I'd say the same about yourself, though. You have to believe in NASA to believe in the globe because
I've looked into it.
Whoa!
Yeah.
If you call out NASA as liars, then it starts to crumble, doesn't it? Yeah. So I think it's the same situation. For
me, I look at things from an outside perspective, right? If I saw something that I thought was a lie, I'd point it out. I don't believe NASA because the Earth's a globe and it's got to be true. If I saw something that I thought NASA were doing that was fucking weird, I'd point it out. I don't care about who they are. The only thing I care about is facts and empirical evidence. I'm not swayed by anything. I don't have a confirmation bias. All I care about is evidence that shows a position.
Yeah. So you don't think you've got confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance when you look at NASA and you don't see that they're lying? No?
No, because I scrutinize it. If someone shows me something that they say, this is NASA lying, I'm like, all right, let's have a look at it, and I'll go over it. And I'll do a bit of research. And every single time I've done that, I found that NASA weren't lying, and the person that showed me that just didn't understand what was going on and had to have it explained to them.
How have you proved that NASA aren't lying yourself?
By actually looking into the footage, finding where the footage came from, maybe finding the entire video that footage was from instead of just the one clip, finding the specific context around that clip, comparing it to real-world data at the time. Lots of ways that I can actually look at something that is done by NASA, be it a video or a picture, and cross-reference it to other things to find out if it holds any weight. And every single time I'm ever presented with anything that says, look at this, NASA are faking it, I look into it and I find out that, well, no, you're actually wrong. Like, for instance, the famous one with, oh, look at her with her hair sticking up. It must be hairspray. Yeah? Do you know what I'm about?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course.
So, have you seen that whole video? Or have you just seen that clip?
Not sure.
Right. So at the beginning of that video, she's got her hair tied up in a ponytail. Right? There's no hairspray. There's nothing. She literally takes her hair down, pushes it up, moves it around, and it stays there because she's in a zero gravity environment. There's no hairspray involved. You can see her doing it in real time. And that's what I mean. A flat earther will see that clip of her hair going up and going, oh, look at that. That's clearly hairspray. It's hairspray. They won't bother to look at the rest of the video that clearly shows that it's not hairspray.
You're definitely right on the point where people clip stuff up. And because, I mean, that happens not just in the flat earth thing, that happens all over the place. People presenting stuff that's very suspect in terms of showing the whole thing. And you can, of course, make things look something that they're not by doing that. But we're not just talking about one hairspray clip here. I've also seen that woman's hair intermingled with some of the equipment behind her. It was all intermingled with the wires. I just like, is that really the way they operate in space? You've got wires everywhere. The whole space station is a mess. It's an absolute.
It's not a mess actually. When you watch the whole run through, the 55-minute uncut video of the ISS walkthrough, right? What you see is that all those wires are very well cable managed, extremely well cable managed, but they have to be reachable so that they can do stuff. It's not a mess, but it is. The entire thing is a scientific laboratory. There is going to be wires. There is going to be equipment. But when you actually look at it, it's so immaculately well cable managed that it doesn't matter that there's a wire hanging there. There's just nowhere else to put that wire.
That doesn't look like that to me. I've seen very well managed cabling because they show the comparisons between how cabling's actually done and to how it's done on the ISS, where they're floating around. I mean, that you would think there'd be little panels where they just pull so that they don't get caught up in it. You'd pull the panel open and there's the access.
Not everything has a panel, and to get that panel up to space, that costs extra money. Every kilogram to get to space costs thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So if they don't need a panel, then they wouldn't waste money and time getting a panel up there. And maybe there isn't a panel. Maybe that's just a plug going to another plug with some wires that are cable managed. But people are also aware of what's going on when they're moving around in there. They spend a lot of time there, so they're probably aware that they don't grab onto that cable if that can accidentally come out. There's handholds everywhere for them. And plus that 55-minute uncut video is pretty damn good evidence that the ISS is real anyway.
Do you know what I would need to believe in the ISS? I would need to see it constructed. How does it get constructed and then start traversing it 17,500 miles an hour?
It was constructed in space. Possible? It was constructed in space.
Travelling at what speed?
17,000 miles an hour.
While they're building it?
Yeah. But there's no friction in space, so it's not like it's going to be wind or anything. For them, it's not going to be moving. It's not like it's going to be, shooting off away from them because they're traveling the same speed as it. Speed is a relative thing. So...
I would at least... Sorry.
You would at least what? Sorry.
I would at least need to see footage of its construction. There's footage of the Twin Towers being built, the Titanic being built. There's no footage of the space station being built.
No, there is. Again, that's a lie. That's another lie that flat earthers have told you. There's lots of footage of its construction, and I can present it to you anytime you like. I've shown it many, many times. All the footage of the construction is in space. You see the footage of the components being launched, and you see the footage of those components being attached to the space station in space. This is another lie you've been told. You've been told by flat earthers there's no footage of its construction, and you just believed it. Could someone do me a favour and in the comments just post me a link to any of the footage of the construction of the ISS for Al? Because it's easily available out there. Al, you've been lied to again.
Not everything that I believe is because somebody else has told me, mate. I do have my own mind. I do come to my own conclusions.
Well, who told you there's no ISS construction videos?
I've looked for them.
Well, okay, go to Scott Manley's channel, British Astronaut, and he's got an entire playlist of the ISS construction videos. They're not hard to find.
I couldn't find any on YouTube, Craig. And when I asked a Globe defender to show me, what he showed me was ridiculous.
Why was it ridiculous?
Because it didn't show any men, and it just showed very short, very, very short clips of very close up of like things clicking together. It was just not realistic.
Oh,
You go
right.
on
So
Google,
they showed you footage and you
photographs.
didn't believe it. So it's not that there's no footage, it's that there's footage and you don't believe it, right?
No, I don't believe it because it's not realistic. I've seen footage of the Titanic and the Twin Towers being built. There's hundreds of photographs. Where's the photographs of the ISS being built?
Well,
I can't find any of them.
the video is just lots of photographs, right?
I'll search for them. I can't find them. The first thing you come across when you Google ISS construction, the first thing you come across is like a diagram of all the bits and how they go together. You'd think you'd get some footage of the people building it. Who built it?
Yeah, okay, so I'm looking at it just now. Just go to Scott Manley's channel, right? In fact, you know what? I'll post the link to the playlist here for people. So there's what looks like about 20 videos of construction of the ISS with people and everything. Lots there. How many we got? 20, 25, 30. Oh wow, 43 videos of construction of the ISS.
Why can't I find them on YouTube?
Well, that is on YouTube. There you go. I've just sent you the list. I don't know why you couldn't find it, Al, because it took me about 10 seconds to find it.
I've searched many times. I don't get it, mate. All right, I'll take a look.
But there is, again, anyone that says there's no footage of the ISS being constructed is wrong. They're simply wrong. 43 videos I just found looking about 2 minutes. So this is my point, right? Everything that you've said to me, right, is something that I've heard from another flat earther, right?
Oh, no.
I've heard all of these things. I've heard all these arguments, right?
But agent debates.
Yeah, which means that you've heard them from somebody as well. And I know that you've got your own mind, Al. I'm not saying you don't. Of course you do. But you've used your mind to just believe these things that people are telling you. I mean, you obviously haven't put them up for scrutiny. Because I did there for like 30 seconds and found 43 videos of the thing you say doesn't exist. Yeah, it's not hard to do when you want to know the truth.
So I go on YouTube and I put ISS construction and I should get 43 videos. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I knew that Scott Manley would have them, so I went to Scott Manley's channel, and he's got a whole playlist that I just found. But let me go to YouTube and just type in ISS construction and see what I get.
All right, that would be good.
Construction. Oh, actually, the first thing it brought up was Scott Manley's playlist. And then a video from NASA Johnson called International Space Station Assembly. A video from Jared Owen, How Does the International Space Station Work? Which includes videos of its construction. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know what you're doing, but I'll show you the search. I'll bring this up so you can see it.
Glasses time.
So all I've done is I've typed in ISS construction. And we've got the International Space Station Construction playlist by Scott Manley, which has 43 videos. And then all of these. Full ISS construction. We've got lots. ISS construction documentary, showing videos of it being launched and assembled. You know, I don't know why you weren't able to find these videos. Honestly, it makes no sense, Al, that you were unable to find them.
I need to do this again then, because I'm telling you that's not what I found when I was.
Well, let me put it on a incognito tab. I've forgotten how to go incognito. There we go. Incognito. Right, we'll go incognito and we'll go to YouTube. There you go. ISS construction. Right, so it's not the same list as I had, but there is lots of videos of the ISS construction. And that's using a completely incognito tab. Oh yeah, here's the Scott Manley playlist, just 4 down. So yeah, not sure why, Al, you would be unable to find those.
Well, that's going to be my first job. That's going to be my first job, Craig. I'm going to have a good look at them and see if I am buying these videos. Of course.
What will you use other than just looking at them to determine if they're real or not?
I don't know what else I can use. I'm not going to ask NASA, am I?
No, but maybe just you need to think, well, what should they look like? You know?
Yeah, that's exactly that's what.
And you have to remember that it's in an environment where there's no atmosphere. You know, it's in an environment with, well, because they're free falling, it's low gravity. You know, you have to take these things into account when you're thinking about how it should look. You can't compare it to things on Earth. You can't compare it to construction of the Titanic or the Twin Towers because they were done on Earth.
I'm not comparing the footage. I was only comparing the footage to them. Yeah.
So
the sheer amount of footage and photographs, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of footage of it. So I don't want to be mean.
That's all I can say.
I don't want to be mean. I really don't. But it seems to me like you've been fooled, and because you've been deep into this for 7 years, you're easy to take on board that information which backs up your position. But I seriously encourage you to look at the things that Tony was talking about. You know, how gravity works, and the submarine gravity gradient navigation I was talking about. Look at the measurements of Earth. Look at the measurements of Earth's rotation. All these things exist. You could even do an experiment yourself to measure the Earth's rotation if you've got a decent high ceiling and a pendulum. You know, you can do these things yourself to verify. You don't have to believe what people say. There's simple ways to verify if the Earth is a globe or not. And you know what? The whole NASA thing, again, like Tony said, that's different. All right? Whether NASA are lying or not, it's a different subject to the shape of the Earth and what the Earth is doing. There's ways to confirm yourself that the Earth is a globe that is rotating.
Well, Craig, I'm not too proud to go back. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm thinking of it, but I'm talking about in the future, if I really start picking up and stop being lazy. I said this to Toon. It's only a month ago, so I haven't had a chance to do a lot in that month. I've had quite a busy month, actually. But I was quite honest with Toon and said, you know, I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong. I'm not too proud to go back like other people have. I'm certainly not ready to do that yet. But
3 months. 3 months of talking to me and Toon, and we'll sort you out.
Don't think I'm going to be the next Rachie just yet, eh?
Not yet, but you will be, Al. I can see it.
I'm just giving you a heads up that I ain't too proud to go back. I'm not bothered, mate. I don't care what people think of me. I really don't. I don't care
that's
what
the good. You know, in this whole game, of course, there's ego involved. Everybody has ego, and you know,
of course.
Even though I don't think Jeranism is lying about what he believes, I think someone like Jeranism would struggle to go back to the globe because of what he's built.
Oh, definitely, you know, yeah.
But there is people that have gone back, you know, from, what was his name? Tiger Dan back in the day was one of the first big flat earthers he literally tried to make a flat earth map and he couldn't. And that's why he became a glober again, you know?
I remember that name. Yeah, I remember that name. I've got a good memory. There are people that
we'll have you back, Al.
Hey?
We'll have you back and we'll have some more conversations. I think a talk with both me and Toon at the same time could be good. Because Toon and I have got different perspectives, you know. He is religious and I'm not, you know. He does believe in a creator as such, even though he still, you know, says the universe, it was the Big Bang and everything. Obviously, he's got that, you know, he's got that different perspective on things than I do. And I think it's maybe good to have a conversation with both of us at the same time. I
might have to bring my own guy in then.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's 2 on 2.
But it is getting quite late, so I'm going to let you go.
That's fine, mate. I was thinking the same, yeah.
I appreciate the conversation, Al. I really do. I'm glad that you came on. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late. Sorry if I interrupted sometimes. I don't mean to. It's just I get excited with the conversation.
That's fine. That's fine. We all do it.
Yeah.
I just make a really, really concerted effort not to do that because I see so many people doing it. And I've got this real thing about being interrupted. If someone interrupts me, it spins my head and then I completely lose what I was saying because I get annoyed. So, but no, thanks for having me on. I came on because I think you've got an entertaining channel and I think you're all right. I wouldn't go on someone who I had a bad feeling about in terms of their personality and that. It just wouldn't work for me. That's why I went on Toon. That's why I've come on here. That's why I spoke to Mark in my first debate. I'm sure I'll be back. I said I'll go back on Toon. But what else can I say? I'm not going to be turned on this one conversation. Obviously, this just doesn't work like that, does it? But no, I want to put the work in, and I want to make sure that I'm right in going forward with this because I'm getting a bit bored of it, to be honest. I know I've only just started doing debates, but I'm getting a bit tired of the daily. I know it's my choice to make a flat Earth post every day. I know what's going to happen when it happens, but I'm actually going to give it a bit of a rest for a week. I'm not going to post anything because it's draining. It's been draining on your mental health. I've seen you admit that. So yeah, it is on both sides.
Constantly having an argument is draining. You're right, and that's what this is. It's a constant argument, and that's why every now and then I need to take a little bit of time away. I've got my own mental health issues that I deal with all of the time. You don't know this, but I've got systemic disorder because I'm in agony 24 hours a day from injuries from the military. So I do struggle with my own mental health. Things overwhelm me. I struggle to control my temper. I'm always in pain. I can get agitated easily. I can get depressed easily. So it is draining, and especially for someone that does struggle with mental health. But there's a good side to it. There's a good side to it. Sorry, go on.
I consider myself an autistic person. I'm not officially diagnosed, and I may be wrong, but specifically Asperger's syndrome, which is a high functioning autism. I did a lot of research into that, and I was just watching myself. Basically this guy who's got Asperger's. I was basically just watching myself, and I was like, "Wow, this was only 2 years ago." So I'm kind of dealing with the fact that I'm probably autistic.
They don't actually use Asperger's as a diagnosis anymore. It's just autism spectrum disorder. My son's autistic, and it was kind of Asperger's, but he's just ASD. But if you see something in yourself, it's never too late to go and get that checked. And I think what we found in society is that there's a lot more people on the spectrum than we thought.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the truth of it, to be honest. I don't believe their official narratives. I don't know what autism is. I just think I've probably got it, and it does bring its challenges. I'm going to a Flat Earth meeting tomorrow, and I'm shitting myself because I've got to meet loads of new people, and I'm a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, and I don't really drink, so I don't really want. That doesn't work either because I know that can take the edge off, but. I'm going to that tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. One of the girl that invited me, Natasha, is watching now. So hi, Natasha.
Hi, Natasha.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Natasha, sound off in the chat, would you? Well, thank you, Al, for coming on, and definitely we're going to have another chat sometime, okay?
All right, man, and good luck with your operation, Craig. I mean that.
Thank you. Take it easy. Mate. Cheers. Appreciate it.
All right, cheers, Craig.
Bye.
Bye, man.
Oh, nuh-uh. Well, I just don't believe it. That was it, really, right? So, Al Truther. I think Al will be an ex-Flat Earther relatively soon. I think the reason that he's been a Flat Earther for so long is that he's never spoken to one of us anti-Flat Earthers, like me or Toon, etc. And yeah, Roland, you're right. He seems amenable to changing his mind, which is the first step, right? And also, he's done a post on Facebook every day for so long, and all of a sudden now he's not wanting to do it. Yeah, I think I might have touched something here. Hey, wait, that sounded wrong. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching today. I think we peaked out at 670 watching, which is always amazing. And as always, the amount of super chats and memberships is insane. So, thank you. PhD Tony for $5 says, does your guest understand there are people who study the shape of Earth and Earth's gravity field professionally? Does he accept GPS is accurate? Didn't talk about GPS. What I found a lot is that with people like Al, there's maybe not too much you want to chuck in at one go. Excuse me. I was thinking about using GPS and something like that in the next discussion. But thank you, Tony, for coming on and helping. I appreciate that. Christian Hoyt, members for 2 months, says, FTFE, could it be possible to make a timestamp when the Flerf present positive dirt piece of evidence rather than misunderstandings? No, it couldn't be possible because it never happened. Stringer News 1 for $2 says, Q for AR. Ow, have you been taught lies? Well, obviously. And then another $2 says, that's it. I'm going to clown college. It's apparently where I went. Pat in the chat, $9.99. Thank you to that, Pat. If we're using religion as a source of information as to the shape of our planet, how do we feel about religious Hindu texts explicitly stating the Earth is a globe? Well, obviously Hindu's just a lie, isn't it? Because only Christian religion is real, or something. I don't know. Donald Trump's 116 indictments, who's been a member for 41 months, which is impressive because he didn't have any indictments 41 months ago. But anyway, says, love you, keep fighting the tight shirt. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I can actually jump scare with my biceps now. No flexing? Flexing. No flexing? Flexing. I love it. Arms and chest tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Warboss, $5 Canadian says, wah! That's the orc mating call, in case you didn't know. Wow. Stringer News 1 for $2 says, ask your engineer what forces are in a catenary. Yeah, gravity. Randomly Epic gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. And then Mr. Toffees, who's been a member for 21 months, says Exeter train station has an exit on an incline. So much about trains that prove the globe. Fact Base for $2 says, why not learn truth then? Truth takes learning, git. Yeah, I mean, truth does take learning. And hopefully Al will learn. Terror Dickoff, been a member for 20 months, says, I'm late, so I shall appropriately punish myself. Please do, send me videos. Brianna Johnson for £2 says, send Mikey Smith Mark II back to Wish. Oof. Now, Mikey Smith's a horrible person. That guy was alright. Nutlow, who's been a member for 1 month, says, saying thank you for the gifted sub, and UFTFE, thank for all the great enjoyment. You're welcome. And thank you for whoever gifted him a sub. Lord Lewis Pooh for $2 says, for fuck's sake, you have to explain seasons. Yeah, I know. Every time. Greg Coates, who's been a member for 1 month, says, don't fall for the grifters and other stupid people making arguments that the Earth is flat. No. Gotta lie to Flerf, basically. Jiffy Jiffworld's been gifted 5 memberships. Well, gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, Jiffy. You fucking rock. And Charlie Welch, member for 5 months, says, #1 globe proof. If it were flat, all these fuckers would be saying it's round. Yeah, that's right. Mr. E-Man comes in and just throws 10 memberships straight at my forehead. Ow! Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then for $5 Australian says, to compensate for the lack of evidence and measurement of flatness. Thank you. I mean, should I be getting that? Or should I go to flat? No, don't give it to Flat Earthers. Thank you very much. TGS, who's been a member for 2 months, says, too many big words for poor Al. His eyes have glazed over. And then Siggy Sigwell jumps in and gives me 666 ARSs and says, another day, another debate, another Flerf, same old shit, hail Sagan. Eon Dust for $10 Australian. The thing about our senses is that they're only good for our basic survival, not making accurate measurements. If they did, architects and builders wouldn't need measurement tools. Yeah, I know. I hate it when Flerfs go, I can measure with my eyes. Dave D for $5 Australian. The level of humanity and care you and Tony displayed towards this person is not only important, but something we should all emulate. Thank you both. Yeah. So, I approach debates in 2 ways these days, right? If there's someone like Al, who seems like a decent person, wants to have a genuine conversation, is willing to listen, then I'm going to treat them with full respect, like they deserve, because they've given that to me. But if there's someone like Try Thinking, Nathan Oakley, or any of the screamy Flerfs that just don't want to listen, then I'm going to go full FTFE on their fucking ass. String News 1 for $2 says, ow, is CGI, prove me wrong, I can't. Stephen York, $7.99 Australian dollars said, he said it's a waste of time if he does something then gets refuted, but refutation is the core of science. You clearly are genuine. Yep. That cognitive bias is holding him down. I think he'll get past it. String News 1 for $2 says, where are all the videos of Flat Earth from space? Slivery has been a member for 5 months, says, give him the real or CGI test. My internet was being weird and I was trying to, but it wouldn't let me load the page. Shovelhead Steve for $2 says, ow, Truther is a fucking moron. I don't know if that's necessarily fair. The guy was willing to listen, which is a step up, right? Tim Tully for $5 says, don't believe NASA. How about other countries' space agencies? I think the problem is that space agencies tend to be run by governments, and governments by default lie, I guess. Warboss for 10 Canadian dollars. Sorry, it just skipped. Give me a sec. Says, oh, Ow the Flerf thinks he's smart. Thinks CGI's fake. He screams and lies. No proof in his bag, just words he spray. But Craig crump him quick, proper and right. Time for a wah to scare the Flerf away. Thank you, my friend Orc. Mark M for £5 says, mate, lost a CAD job. Pretty certain they were spouting flat earth to workmates. Autodesk has tools to correct the curvature of Earth. Shoot me. I don't want to shoot you, because you're right. JSS Tiger for $5 says, can the Flat Earther tell me why Flat Earth leaders can't crowdfund an Antarctic cruise to verify Midnight Sun? Because that would ruin their grift, mate. Remember, there's a Flat Earther called Flat Earth Millionaire. He could book a fucking trip to space. Mark M for £5 says, who was running this amazing sky projector in ancient Egyptian times when NASA didn't exist? Me. I went back in time and did it. Fact-based for $2 says, $2 Australian. Okay, Rachie, best wishes and glad you woke up. Hugs. Yeah, Rachie, you're awesome. Can't wait to do our collab. Skinny Fat Boy, $1.99. This is their first super chat. Whoop, whoop. Well done, my friend. Thank you, Skinny Fat Boy, for $1.99 with a bunch of stickers. Appreciate you popping your super chat cherry with me. We've got Randomly Epic, who's been a member for 5 months, says the nutter was strong with that one. Yes, it was. Skinny Fat Boy, $1.99, says, here's $2 more for calling in the wolf. Tony is the wolf. And then we got Siggy Sigweld, who obviously comes in and does his best Oprah impression and just throws 50 memberships straight into my house, smashing my window, sticking into my walls. You going to come clean this up, Siggy? What am I going to do with all these memberships? I can't carry all these memberships. Thank you, Siggy. Ziggy, the support you give me is beyond words. You and everyone else that super chats and members and patrons, the financial support is what allows me to keep doing this channel. But just you guys watching, every single one of you watching this stream is supporting me and what I do. And I thank you for that. Just being here means the world to me. You know, I took a chance on this YouTube thing, and I could have happily lived my life on benefits with my injuries, you know? The government could have just cared for me and I'd have been fine. But I went all in on this YouTube thing, and it's thanks to you guys that I get to keep doing what I love. So as a reward, I'm going to play you a song that has lyrics written on the screen that has a bunch of typos in. I will correct those at some point, but I rap in the song, so there is that.
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now.
Good morning. These words come with a storm warning. Better batten down the hatches, grab some matches and brace yourself for a long day of misery. YouTube has given me the power to reach up into the sky and show you all that we live on the ball. I bring you science that's comprehensible. Your view is indefensible. You're reprehensible.
Go on, Mr. Sensible.
When I was young, I never thought I would be here to see this. A pile of random nonsense dressed up as bullshit. Your ignorance will be the death of us all, like running head first full speed into a wall. You could always read a book, buy a telescope, set it up and take a photo of the moon, or just be a buffoon. I send you in a balloon up to the stratosphere in page 3.
You're a few fries short of a happy meal. You're dumber than a box of hair. The wheel's spinning but the hamster's dead, and you're as smart as bait. You forgot to pay your brain bill. You're missing a few buttons on the remote control. 24 cents short of a quarter. You're surfing in Nebraska. You're as bright as Alaska in December, and you fell out of your family tree. You don't have all the cornflakes in one box. You got an IQ of 2 and it takes 3 to grunt. The elevator doesn't go all the way up, and there's a vacancy on the top floor. Your antenna doesn't pick up all the channels. You're several nuts short of a
You're Mr.
fruitcake.
Sensible, calm down, don't go too hard. You don't need the hard Siberian Flerfs in your backyard. You're a man of science, poise and grace. Mage 2 did everything to wipe the grins off the face. So Nathan, get away from those kids. The world is not flat and it doesn't have a lid. Recognize the differences between the textbook and the Bible and control yourself. Lay off your slander and your lies. You're a bunch of knobs poisoning the world of the youth, spreading lies that you like to claim as knowledge and truth. Stop spreading fresh bullshit like the butter on your bread. Maybe a musical assault and knock some sense into your head. I hope one day you'll hear these lyrics and smile, and you realise you used to be a 40-year-old child. Now it's time to wake up, open your eyes and see, and acknowledge the existence of.
You're a few clowns short of a circus. Your phone is off the hook. Your sewing machine is out of thread. You're all foam and no beer. You don't have all your dogs on one leash. An intellect rivaled only by garden tools. There's no grain in your silo, and your skylight leaks a little. Your belt doesn't go through all the loops. You couldn't pour water out of a boot without instructions on the heel. Your slinky's kinked, and you're proof that evolution can work in reverse. A few feathers short of a whole duck, one fruit
Can we
loop short
pretend
of a
that
full bowl.
airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now. Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Should be wishing for a brain right now, brain right now, brain right now.
You thought it was over? Well, I'm still standing while you're swinging, flinging feces, talking shit just like the human centipede. You got the mind of a chimp, and I'm here to expedite your shore leave. Cause I'm a seaman, but not the kind I writ up on your mom's gums. I'm the kind that sailed submarines and fired guns. I could float a boat across the ocean with my eyes closed, circumnavigate the globe with a compass and a bag of sausage rolls. Well, all you can do is nibble on your toes. I'll smack you with the hose that you call a water level, sit and swivel. You nasal gazing muppet, you can stuff it harder than the wallet stuffed by Warren Buffett. And I don't care about your sauces unless you're serving them, and I don't care about your lines unless you're curving them. Now step away from me, you're sucking up my oxygen with a vacuum where your brain should be, you dumb fuck. Thank you for watching, everyone. What a great show. What a great audience you are. I love every single one of you. Not you, Gary. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flag. Fight the flag. Fight the flag. Fight the flag.